Katia Powell, a 29-year-old woman from Eupora, Mississippi, was known as the psychic and astrologer of her community. She had a deep connection with the spiritual world and was highly regarded by those who sought her guidance. Katia's father, Reverend Vance Vice Powell, a Baptist minister from the neighboring town of Mathiston, had a complicated relationship with his daughter's work. He believed that her abilities were influenced by evil forces despite their close bond. Katia was a proud Aries and an active participant in the world of Dungeons & Dragons, where she embraced the persona of Lysandra Dragonslayer. She immersed herself in her work, with aspirations of expanding her psychic abilities. As January of 2008 rolled in, she was determined to take her skills to new heights. Eupora, a small town in Mississippi, was abuzz with excitement for the new year. The community was still recovering from the aftermath of the devastating tornado that had struck the region the previous year. The local newspaper, the Webster Progress-Times, reported on the progress made in the town's recovery efforts. It highlighted the resilience of the community and the hope that the new year brought. Katia's clients, who came from all walks of life, relied on her guidance to navigate the uncertainties of the future. She had gained a reputation for her accurate predictions and insightful readings. Her name was often mentioned in conversations at the local Eupora coffee house, where townsfolk gathered to discuss the latest happenings. However, not everyone in Eupora was a believer in Katia's abilities. Some skeptics dismissed her as a charlatan, claiming that her predictions were nothing more than lucky guesses. This skepticism only fueled Katia's determination to prove herself and silence her critics. As the days passed, Katia's dedication to her craft intensified. She spent hours studying astrology charts, practicing her psychic readings, and honing her skills. She had recently purchased a new set of tarot cards from Mystic Moon Magic Shop, a popular metaphysical store in nearby Starkville. The cards were said to be enchanted, enhancing the accuracy of her readings. On the cold winter evening of January 23, 2008, the small town of Eupora, Mississippi was cloaked in an eerie stillness. The air hung heavy with a sense of foreboding, as if nature itself held its breath in anticipation of the tragic events that were about to unfold. As twilight descended upon the town, casting long shadows across the landscape, the lifeless body of 29-year-old Katia Powell was discovered beneath the majestic Magnolia tree that adorned her backyard. The grim discovery was made by Patty Delgado, a close friend and neighbor of the deceased psychic and astrologer. Patty, who had grown concerned after not hearing from Katia for several days, ventured over to her house to check on her well-being. What Patty encountered was a scene straight out of a nightmare. The lifeless body of her dear friend lay sprawled on the ground, bathed in the pale moonlight. Shock and horror washed over Patty as she frantically dialed emergency services, her trembling voice betraying her disbelief at the sight before her. Within minutes, the Eupora Police Department descended upon the scene, their flashing blue lights illuminating the otherwise dark and somber neighborhood. Officers cordoned off the area, preventing curious onlookers from getting too close. The news of Katia's untimely demise spread like wildfire through the tight-knit community, leaving its residents in a state of shock and disbelief. Local media outlets, such as the Eupora Gazette and the Mississippi Times, dedicated coverage to the perplexing case. The story captured the attention of the nation, with news outlets like CNN and Fox News picking up the story, eager to delve into the enigma surrounding Katia's demise. As the days turned into weeks, the investigation took numerous twists and turns, leading detectives down a labyrinth of clues and potential suspects. The once peaceful streets of Eupora became a hotbed of speculation and intrigue, as residents grappled with the unsettling knowledge that a killer could be lurking among them. As news of Katia Powell's tragic death spread throughout the town of Eupora, the community was left in shock and disbelief. The small Mississippi town, known for its close-knit residents and peaceful atmosphere, had never experienced such a heinous crime. The murder of a beloved psychic and astrologer sent shockwaves through the community, leaving everyone searching for answers. The investigation into Katia's death was swiftly taken over by the local police department, with detectives Felicia Wallister and Sherry Backram leading the charge. These seasoned investigators were no strangers to solving crimes, having successfully closed numerous cases in the past. Their dedication and commitment to justice were evident from the moment they arrived at the crime scene. The detectives meticulously combed through every inch of the area surrounding the Magnolia tree where Katia's lifeless body was found. They carefully collected any potential evidence, taking note of even the smallest detail. Every leaf, every blade of grass, and every footprint was analyzed, as the detectives left no stone unturned in their quest for the truth. As the investigation unfolded, the detectives discovered several key pieces of evidence that would prove crucial in piecing together the events leading up to Kadia's death. They found a series of text messages on her phone, indicating a possible conflict with an unidentified individual. The detectives traced the number, leading them to a person of interest who lived in a neighboring town. The detectives also interviewed friends and family members, hoping to gain insight into Kadia's personal life and potential motives for her murder. They discovered that she had recently been featured in a local newspaper article, highlighting her unique abilities as a psychic and astrologer. The article had garnered attention from both supporters and skeptics alike, leading to a heated debate within the community. Additionally, the detectives uncovered a diary belonging to Kadia, in which she detailed her aspirations and fears. The entries revealed her desire to expand her psychic abilities and her struggle to gain acceptance from her father, Reverend Vance Powell. These personal insights shed light on the complexities of Kadia's life and provided the detectives with a deeper understanding of the victim. As the investigation continued, the detectives faced numerous challenges and setbacks. They encountered false leads, unreliable witnesses, and a lack of concrete evidence. However, their unwavering determination and commitment to justice kept them focused on their ultimate goal, finding Kadia's killer and bringing them to justice. Reverend Vance Powell, a Baptist minister in the neighboring town of Mathiston, found himself at the center of a chilling murder investigation. The prime suspect in the tragic death of his daughter, Kadia Powell, Reverend Powell's strong religious convictions and disapproval of her psychic and astrological work raised eyebrows among the investigators. As the police interrogated Reverend Powell, they sought to uncover any potential motives he might have had for committing such a heinous crime. The suspect's response was a mix of anger and denial, vehemently proclaiming his innocence. However, the investigators knew they had to dig deeper into his background to uncover the truth. Reverend Powell's opposition to his daughter's involvement in the psychic world was well known in the tight-knit community. He believed that her work was influenced by evil forces and would lead her down a path to damnation. This belief put him at odds with Kadia and caused tension within their relationship. The investigators delved into Reverend Powell's past, searching for any evidence that could link him to the crime. They discovered that he had a reputation for being a strict and controlling father, often clashing with Kadia over her choices in life. The tension between them had escalated in the months leading up to her death, as Kadia had expressed her desire to expand her psychic abilities. To further complicate matters, Reverend Powell's sermons at the Mathiston Baptist Church had become increasingly fiery and passionate in the weeks preceding the murder. He had been warning his congregation about the dangers of the occult and the influence of demons in people's lives. Some members of the community wondered if his sermons were a veiled confession of guilt. As the investigation continued, the detectives meticulously combed through Reverend Powell's phone records, financial transactions, and personal belongings. They interviewed friends, family, and members of the congregation to gather more information about his character and potential motives. The investigators knew that they had a challenging task ahead of them. They had to separate fact from speculation and build a solid case against Reverend Powell if they were to bring justice for Kadia's tragic death. The truth, they believed, was hidden somewhere within the web of secrets and emotions that surrounded this small Mississippi town. As the investigation into the murder of Kadia Powell unfolded, a shocking revelation came to light. Another life had been cut short in the small town of Eupora, Mississippi. The victim, Syria Denham, a 25-year-old cashier at the local Dollar General, was found dead in her own home. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community, deepening the sense of fear and unease that had already taken hold. Syria's body had been hidden in the refrigerator, a chilling detail that added to the macabre nature of the crime. The police determined that she had been killed a few days prior to Kadia's tragic death. The timing and proximity of these two murders raised suspicion and intensified the urgency of the investigation. The focus quickly turned to Lancelot Hamilton, Syria's boyfriend and an ex-felon. Eyewitnesses had spotted his distinctive pickup truck near Kadia's house on the day of her murder. This crucial piece of information made Lancelot a person of interest in both cases. To further complicate matters, Lancelot's criminal history added a layer of complexity to the case. The investigators meticulously reviewed his past convictions, searching for any connection to the murders. They reached out to law enforcement agencies in neighboring towns, collaborating and sharing information to build a comprehensive profile of Lancelot. As the investigation unfolded, the media interest surrounding the case grew. Local newspapers covered the story. The tight-knit community found itself thrust into the spotlight, grappling with the weight of these heinous crimes. The investigators faced mounting pressure to solve the murders and bring the perpetrators to justice. Every lead was pursued with unwavering determination as they sifted through evidence, interviewed witnesses, and analyzed forensic findings. The clock ticked, and the town anxiously awaited answers. In their relentless pursuit of justice, the police made a breakthrough discovery a few weeks after the initial investigation. On a cold winter day in late January of 2008, they uncovered a hidden diary belonging to Syria Denham, the 25-year-old cashier at the local Dollar General who was found dead in her own home. The diary provided a glimpse into the tumultuous relationship between Syria and her boyfriend, Lancelot Hamilton, an ex-felon who quickly became a person of interest in the case. The diary entries painted a disturbing picture of a relationship marred by domestic disputes and violence. Syria detailed instances of physical abuse and emotional manipulation, shedding light on the possible motives behind her tragic death. The pages were filled with her fears and desperation as she struggled to break free from the toxic cycle of her relationship with Lancelot. The police meticulously analyzed the diary, documenting every detail and potential clue. The entries revealed that Syria had confided in a close friend, expressing her desire to leave Lancelot and seek help. The investigators immediately reached out to this friend, hoping to gather more information that could aid in their quest for justice. As the investigation unfolded, the police uncovered additional evidence linking Lancelot to the murder of Claudia Powell, the 29-year-old psychic and astrologer whose lifeless body was found under the Magnolia tree in her own backyard. Surveillance footage from a nearby gas station captured Lancelot's pickup truck near Claudia's house on the day of the murder, providing a crucial piece of the puzzle. With the newfound knowledge from Syria's diary and the surveillance footage, the investigators were determined to connect the dots and bring the truth to light. They delved deeper into Lancelot's background, uncovering a history of violent behavior and a criminal record that further fueled their suspicions. As the investigation reached its critical juncture, the police were closing in on their suspects. The truth behind the deaths of Claudia Powell and Syria Denham was within reach, and the town held its breath in anticipation of justice being served. Lancelot Hamilton, the primary person of interest in the murder investigation, faced intense scrutiny from the police. With his troubled past and association with the late Syria Denham, suspicions surrounding his involvement in the murders grew stronger. The investigators delved deep into Lancelot's personality, dreams, and possible motives, leaving no stone unturned in their quest for the truth. During the interrogation, Lancelot's demeanor betrayed a mixture of anger and fear, as he struggled to maintain his composure under the mounting evidence against him. The investigators skillfully probed into his background, meticulously dissecting his every move in the days leading up to the murders. As the questioning intensified, Lancelot's facade began to crumble. His attempts to evade the investigators' inquiries became increasingly futile as the weight of the evidence bore down on him. The police presented him with compelling evidence, including eyewitness accounts placing his pickup truck near Claudia Powell's house on the day of her murder. These accounts were further bolstered by surveillance footage from a nearby gas station, capturing Lancelot's vehicle at the scene. In addition to the circumstantial evidence, the investigators uncovered a disturbing connection between Lancelot and Syria. The recently discovered diary of Syria Denham revealed a tumultuous relationship marred by domestic disputes and violence. This revelation painted a chilling picture of a troubled dynamic between the couple, raising further suspicions about Lancelot's potential involvement in both murders. The police, driven by an unwavering commitment to justice, continued to dig deeper into Lancelot's background. They reached out to acquaintances, friends, and family members, seeking any information that could shed light on his motives. The investigators meticulously combed through phone records, financial transactions, and social media profiles, piecing together a comprehensive timeline of Lancelot's activities in the days leading up to the murders. As the investigation unfolded, the media's attention turned towards this gripping case that had captivated the small town of Upora. Local newspapers ran updates on the investigation, while television news stations dedicated segments to the latest developments. The community, gripped by fear and curiosity, anxiously awaited the resolution of this haunting mystery. With Lancelot Hamilton at the center of the investigation, the police were determined to bring justice to the victims and closure to the community. As the case approached its climax, the truth remained just out of reach, tantalizingly close yet frustratingly elusive. After an intense investigation, the truth behind the murders that shook the small town of Upora finally came to light, revealing Lancelot Hamilton as the cold-blooded killer. Lancelot, a troubled ex-felon, had committed the heinous crimes out of fear that his dark secret would be exposed. The police meticulously unraveled the intricate web of deception, leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit of justice. The motive for the first murder, that of Syria Denham, a 25-year-old cashier at the local Dollar General, was rooted in a tumultuous relationship marred by domestic disputes and violence. Lancelot's fear of Syria's ghost haunting him did not stop him from committing the unthinkable act of taking her life. Little did he know that this act would set off a chain of events that would ultimately lead to his own downfall. The discovery of Syria's hidden diary proved to be a crucial turning point in the investigation. The diary detailed the troubled relationship between Syria and Lancelot, providing valuable insights into their lives and the events that transpired leading up to her tragic death. This newfound knowledge allowed the investigators to connect the dots and follow the trail of evidence. As the investigation progressed, the police uncovered a chilling connection between Syria's murder and the death of Claudia Powell, the 29-year-old psychic and astrologer. Lancelot's fear of Syria's ghost exposing his dark secret to Claudia had driven him to silence her forever. The police painstakingly pieced together the timeline of events, meticulously analyzing phone records, surveillance footage, and witness testimonies to build their case against Lancelot. On the day of the arrest, the atmosphere in Upora was heavy with anticipation. The entire community was on edge, eager for justice to be served. The police, armed with overwhelming evidence, closed in on Lancelot. The arrest took place on a cold winter morning, the same chilling backdrop that had witnessed the crimes committed. As the handcuffs clicked shut, a collective sigh of relief swept through the town. The arrest of Lancelot Hamilton sent shockwaves through the community, leaving Claudia's family devastated and the townspeople grappling with the horrifying reality that such evil could exist in their midst. The media frenzy that followed was unprecedented, with news outlets from across the state covering the shocking details of the case. The story of murder under the Magnolia trees became a cautionary tale, a reminder that darkness can lurk even in the most seemingly idyllic places. The trial that ensued was a solemn affair, filled with heightened emotions and a sense of justice hanging in the balance. District Attorney Warren Prancett, a seasoned prosecutor known for his unwavering dedication to upholding the law, presented a compelling case against Lancelot Hamilton. Prancett meticulously outlined the chilling details of the murders, painting a vivid picture of the heinous crimes committed in the small town of Upora, Mississippi. In the courtroom, the victim's family sat with a mixture of grief and anticipation as they watched the proceedings unfold. The defense attorney, David Joe Lodies, a renowned legal expert known for his tenacity, fought fiercely to cast doubt on the evidence presented by the prosecution. Lodies argued that the police had rushed to judgment and that there were other plausible suspects that had not been thoroughly investigated. Throughout the trial, the courtroom was filled with tension as witnesses were called to the stand. Friends and acquaintances of both victims bravely took the stand, recounting their interactions with Lancelot Hamilton and the victims in the months leading up to their deaths. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence, including phone records, DNA analysis, and eyewitness testimonies, all pointing towards Hamilton's guilt. As the trial progressed, the media frenzy surrounding the case reached a fever pitch. News outlets from across Mississippi descended upon Upora, eager to report on the sensational trial. Journalists from jostled for prime spots in the overcrowded courtroom, their pens poised to capture every detail of the proceedings. After weeks of intense courtroom drama, the jury finally reached a verdict. The courtroom fell into a hushed silence as the foreperson stood up to deliver the verdict. Guilty. The word reverberated through the room, causing gasps and tears to flow from the victims' families. The weight of the guilty verdict was palpable, offering a sense of closure to those who had lost their loved ones so tragically. Lancelot Hamilton, now convicted of both murders, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentencing brought a mix of relief and sorrow to the victims' families as they grappled with the finality of the court's decision. Some found solace in the fact that justice had been served, while others still struggled to come to terms with the loss they had endured. The impact of the trial extended far beyond the courtroom walls, leaving an indelible mark on the community of Upora. The townsfolk, once united in their grief, now faced the difficult task of healing and moving forward. After the conclusion of the trial, the individuals involved in the murder under the Magnolia trees case embarked on their own journeys of healing and moving forward. Reverend Vance Weiss Powell, Claudia's father, grappled with the guilt and remorse of his strained relationship with his daughter. He sought solace in his faith, finding comfort in the support of his congregation and the prayers of the community. Reverend Powell dedicated himself to spreading a message of love and forgiveness, hoping to prevent similar tragedies from occurring in the future. Meanwhile, the police investigators, Detectives Felicia Wallister and Sherry Backram, continued their tireless pursuit of justice in other cases. They remain committed to protecting the community, tirelessly working to solve crimes and bring closure to victims and their families. Their dedication and meticulous approach earned them accolades from their colleagues and the respect of the community. Kadia's family and friends found solace in each other, supporting one another through the difficult process of grieving and healing. They held a memorial service to honor Kadia's memory, inviting friends, family, and community members to celebrate her life. The service was a somber yet uplifting event, filled with heartfelt speeches, music, and shared memories. The community came together, offering their condolences and support to Kadia's loved ones. In the wider community of Eupora, Mississippi, the impact of the case was profound. The tragic events had shaken the town to its core, leaving a lasting imprint on its residents. The local newspaper, the Eupora Times, dedicated several articles to the case, documenting the investigation, trial, and the aftermath. The case also garnered attention from regional news outlets, with television stations like WDVA and WAPT covering the trial proceedings. As the town slowly began to heal, the community rallied together, organizing events and initiatives to promote healing and unity. Local businesses, such as the Magnolia Diner and the Eupora Flower Shop, offered their services in support to the victims' families. The tragedy had brought the community closer, fostering a sense of resilience and solidarity. In the years that followed, Eupora, Mississippi, continued to rebuild and move forward. The murder under the Magnolia trees case served as a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing our loved ones. The town learned valuable lessons about the power of community, compassion, and the pursuit of justice. The memory of Kadia and Syria remained alive in the hearts of those who knew them, and their legacy served as a reminder to embrace life and support one another. The murder under the Magnolia trees case remains etched in the annals of Eupora's history, a chilling reminder of the fragility of life and the depths of human darkness. It serves as a testament to the tireless efforts of law enforcement, the resilience of the victims' loved ones, and the enduring power of justice. Jennifer Lee Trelegy, a 34-year-old resident of Mesa, Arizona, was a dedicated and ambitious woman. In July of 2008, Jennifer's life seemed to be on track for success. She held the position of chief telemarketer at Credit Cards for Kids, an operation said to be, quote, committed to helping children build a secure financial future. Jennifer's unwavering dedication to her job made her a respected figure within the organization. Outside of work, Jennifer was an active member of her community. She volunteered at the local homeless shelter, organizing food drives and fundraising events. Her selflessness and genuine care for others made her a beloved figure in Mesa. Jennifer's commitment to her community was even recognized by the local newspaper, the Mesa Tribune, which featured her in an article highlighting her efforts to make a positive impact. Beyond her professional and charitable life, Jennifer's warm-hearted nature extended to her family and friends. She cherished every moment spent with her loved ones, making sure to create lasting memories. Her positive outlook on life and determination to make a difference in the world made her a beacon of hope for those who knew her. But little did Jennifer know that her seemingly perfect life was about to take a dark and unexpected turn. Jennifer's story takes an unexpected turn when she becomes suspicious of her husband's involvement in a secretive gym group. Curiosity gets the better of her, and she embarks on a journey to uncover the truth. Little did she know that this decision would lead her down a path filled with danger and intrigue. As we delve deeper into this case, we will explore the details surrounding Jennifer's life, her aspirations, and the events that transpired in the blisteringly hot Arizonan summer of 2008. Stay tuned for the shocking revelations that lie ahead. On a scorching summer day in July 2008, tragedy struck the peaceful suburban neighborhood of Mesa, Arizona. Jennifer Lee Trelegy, a 34-year-old woman known for her dedication and warm-hearted nature, met a gruesome and untimely end within the walls of her own home. The details of this heinous crime sent shockwaves through the community, leaving residents fearful and on edge. It was Jennifer's close friend, Stacy Brewer-Guyton, who made the horrifying discovery. As she entered Jennifer's home that day, expecting to find her vibrant and full of life. She was instead met with a scene of unimaginable horror. Jennifer lay lifeless on the floor, her body bearing the brutal marks of over 30 stab wounds inflicted with a steak knife. The sheer violence and cruelty of the act sent shivers down Stacy's spine, leaving her overwhelmed with shock and disbelief. The authorities were immediately contacted, and a sense of urgency filled the air. As news of Jennifer's tragic fate spread, the community rallied together in grief and solidarity. Vigils were held, and heartfelt tributes poured in from friends, family, and even strangers who had been touched by Jennifer's kindness. The media, always hungry for sensational stories, descended upon Mesa, eager to uncover every detail and bring the truth to light. As the days turned into weeks, the weight of the unsolved crime hung heavy over the neighborhood. Fear and suspicion lingered in the air, casting a shadow over once trusting relationships. The community yearned for closure, for justice to be served, and for the memory of Jennifer Lee Trilogy to be honored. The authorities wasted no time in responding to the distressing call made by Stacy Brewer-Guyton that came in on that fateful July day in 2008. A team of dedicated police officers swiftly arrived at the scene, ready to unravel the mystery surrounding Jennifer Lee Trilogy's brutal murder. Led by Detective Oliver Sequan, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for his tenacity and attention to detail, the police meticulously combed through every inch of the crime scene. The once tranquil home in the suburban neighborhood of Mesa, Arizona, now bore the chilling marks of a heinous crime. As Detective Kwan surveyed the scene, his eyes were immediately drawn to the bloodstains that marred the once pristine surroundings. The crimson trails seemed to tell a haunting story of the violence that had unfolded within her house. The once pristine surroundings were now stained with Jennifer's blood, a grim reminder of the brutal act that had taken place. The murder weapon, a steak knife from the kitchen, lay discarded nearby, serving as a chilling testament to the violence inflicted upon her. Detective Thompson and his team employed a variety of tools and methods to gather evidence. They carefully collected fingerprints from various surfaces, dusted for DNA, and meticulously photographed the scene from every angle. The detectives also interviewed neighbors, hoping to gather any information that could lead them to the perpetrator. As the investigation progressed, the media began to take notice. Local news outlets, such as the Mesa Tribune and Channel 12 News, reported on the shocking murder that had rocked the community. The police delved into Jennifer's personal life, discovering that Jennifer had recently become suspicious of her husband's gym group, a tight-knit community known as Fit Life Warriors. The group, led by charismatic lifestyle guru Bert Hensley Brecht, had gained a reputation for their intense workouts and exclusive membership. As the summer of 2008 unfolded, the residents of Mesa anxiously awaited justice for Jennifer Lee Trilogy. The pressure mounted on the police from people from all walks of life to solve the crime and bring closure to Jennifer's grieving loved ones. Devin Trilogy, a 38-year-old man with a charming personality, found himself at the center of a chilling crime that left a quiet suburban neighborhood in Mesa, Arizona in shock. As the investigation into the murder of his wife, Jennifer Lee Trilogy, unfolded, a dark secret began to emerge, threatening to unravel the lives of those involved. The police, determined to uncover the truth, focused their attention on Devin as the prime suspect. With his charismatic demeanor and ability to charm those around him, he had managed to maintain a facade of love and affection. However, beneath this seemingly loving exterior, a sinister side lay hidden. During the intense interrogation, Devin's emotions fluctuated between anger and an unsettling calmness. The detectives, armed with their questions and a desire for justice, probed into his possible motives. They delved into his personal life, searching for any signs of discontent or animosity within the marriage. As the investigation progressed, the police pieced together the events leading up to that fateful day in July 2008. They discovered that Jennifer had recently uncovered a secret about her husband's gym group, a group that Devin was deeply involved in. Whispers of illegal activities and connections to organized crime began to circulate within the investigation. The authorities meticulously combed through the evidence, leaving no stone unturned. They analyzed phone records, financial transactions, and witness statements, hoping to find a solid link to the crime. The murder weapon, a steak knife from the kitchen, was carefully examined for fingerprints and DNA, providing crucial clues that would help unravel the truth. The weight of the investigation bore down on Devon, his every move scrutinized by both the police and the public. The once charming man now faced a storm of suspicion and doubt. Would the evidence be enough to bring justice for Jennifer's untimely demise? Stacy Burgaitan, a 36-year-old woman from Mesa, Arizona, found herself under the watchful eye of the authorities as a potential suspect in the tragic murder of her close friend, Jennifer Lee Trelegy. Stacy, known for her outgoing personality and love for adventure, was an avid gym-goer and enjoyed exploring the great outdoors of Arizona. In July of 2008, when the murder took place, Stacy's life took an unexpected turn as she became entangled in a web of suspicion and scrutiny. As a Jungian dream analyst, Stacy prided herself on her ability to interpret dreams and uncover hidden meanings. She often shared her insights with friends and clients, helping them navigate the complexities of their subconscious minds. She also relied heavily on her spirit animal, an ostrich named Angela Reese Crosswind. But behind her fanciful and carefree facade, jealousy brewed within her towards Jennifer, who seemed to have it all: a successful career, a loving husband, and a seemingly perfect life. The police interrogated Stacy relentlessly, leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit of the truth. They probed into her possible motives, scrutinizing her every word and reaction. The intensity of the investigation took a toll on Stacy, evoking a range of emotions from anger to a desperate calmness. During the interrogation, Stacy's mind raced with memories of her friendship with Jennifer. They had shared countless moments together, from their early morning workouts at the local gym to exploring the beautiful landscapes of Arizona. Stacy couldn't help but feel a pang of envy whenever Jennifer's achievements were celebrated, as if her own accomplishments paled in comparison. Stacy's life was turned upside down as she became the subject of public scrutiny. Her every move was dissected and analyzed by armchair detectives and gossip-hungry journalists. The weight of suspicion bore down on her, threatening to crush her spirit and tarnish her reputation. In a shocking turn of events, the investigation into the tragic murder of Jennifer Lee Trelegy took an unexpected twist. The once respected workplace of Jennifer, Credit Cards 4 Kids, was revealed to be a deceitful company operating as a pyramid scheme, preying on innocent and vulnerable children. This revelation added a new layer of intrigue and possible motive to the already twisted tale of murder and deceit. Credit Cards 4 Kids, a seemingly noble organization, purported to provide financial education for children. However, behind the facade of innocence, it was discovered that the company engaged in predatory practices, enticing children to obtain credit cards with exorbitant interest rates. These poor and vulnerable children were then subjected to relentless harassment as they struggled to pay off the staggering 45% interest rate imposed by the company. The revelation of this sinister scheme sent shockwaves through the community as parents and authorities grappled with the realization that such an exploitative operation had been operating right under their noses. The public demanded justice for the innocent victims ensnared in this web of deceit. As the investigation into Jennifer Lee Trelegy's murder deepened, detectives began to explore the possible connection between her untimely demise and the fraudulent activities of Credit Cards 4 Kids. The police meticulously examined financial records, seeking any potential links between Jennifer and the company's downfall. They interviewed former employees, desperate to uncover any clues that could shed light on the motive behind her brutal slaying. Investigators speculated that Jennifer, being a dedicated and ambitious woman, may have stumbled upon the dark secrets of Credit Cards 4 Kids. Perhaps she had uncovered evidence of the company's illegal activities, putting her in grave danger. This theory raised questions about who stood to benefit from silencing her permanently. As the investigation continued, the police intensified their efforts to dismantle the fraudulent empire of Credit Cards 4 Kids. They collaborated with federal agencies, including the Federal Trade Commission and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, to bring the perpetrators to justice and protect the innocent victims ensnared in this heartless scheme. As the investigation into Jennifer Lee Trelegy's tragic murder unfolded, another key figure emerged: Martin O'Hurley, her closest friend and co-worker at Credit Cards 4 Kids. At just 24 years old, Martin was known for his quick thinking and unwavering loyalty towards Jennifer. However, beneath his friendly demeanor, a troubled past lurked, threatening to expose a side of him that no one could have anticipated. On the surface, Martin appeared to be an ordinary young man, dedicated to his work and always ready with a joke to lighten the mood. But as the police delved deeper into his life, they discovered a series of unsettling incidents that hinted at a darker side. Born and raised in Mesa, Arizona, Martin grew up in a modest neighborhood, surrounded by the desert landscape that defined the region. His childhood was marked by hardship, as his parents struggled to make ends meet. Despite the challenges, Martin excelled academically, earning a scholarship to attend Mesa High School. It was during his time at Mesa High that Martin's troubles began to surface. He fell in with a group of rebellious classmates, known locally as the Desert Punks. This tight-knit crew, notorious for their wild parties and reckless behavior, quickly became Martin's new social circle. Their influence led him down a path of minor criminal activity, including vandalism and petty theft. As the questioning intensified, it was revealed that Martin had been moonlighting as a prostitute, offering his services to male clients in the Mesa area. This revelation sent shockwaves through the investigation, painting a picture of a man leading a double life. One of Martin's frequent customers turned out to be none other than Devin Trilogy, Jennifer's husband. The police were astounded by this connection, as it added another layer of complexity to the already twisted tale of murder and deceit. It raised questions about the dynamics between Martin, Jennifer, and Devin, and whether this illicit relationship played a role in Jennifer's untimely demise. The truth finally emerged, revealing Devin Trilogy as the cold-blooded murderer. Devin, age 38, had been leading a double life, hiding his involvement with a secret gym group called Fit Life Warriors. This group, unbeknownst to the community, was exclusively for men and served as a male-only brothel/gay swingers club that would procure handsome male lovers for their members. This revelation shed new light on Devin's motive for the murder and exposed the dark underbelly of the seemingly idyllic suburban community in Mesa, Arizona. The police, through diligent investigation, pieced together the evidence that linked Devin to Fit Life Warriors. They uncovered explicit messages exchanged between Devin and other members of the group, revealing a web of deceit and betrayal. It became apparent that Devin's involvement with Fit Life Warriors had become a source of conflict within his marriage to Jennifer. The discovery of Devin's secret life and his connection to Fit Life Warriors sent shockwaves through the community. Residents were left questioning the true nature of the seemingly perfect lives that surrounded them. As the police delved deeper into the connection between Devin and Fit Life Warriors, they uncovered a network of notable individuals who were part of this secret club. Interviews with club members revealed a tight-knit sex community that operated under a code of secrecy. The police worked tirelessly to gather information from these individuals, hoping to unravel the full extent of Devin's involvement and the motive behind Jennifer's murder. The arrest of Devin Trilogy sent shockwaves through the community as the reality of a heinous crime committed in their midst became all too real. The community, still reeling from the revelations surrounding Fit Life Warriors, came together to support Jennifer's family and honor her memory. The impact of this tragic event would forever leave its mark on Mesa, Arizona, serving as a reminder that darkness can lurk behind even the most seemingly idyllic facades. The trial that followed Jennifer Lee Trilogy's tragic murder in July 2008 brought the community together as they sought justice for the beloved woman whose life was brutally cut short. The courtroom was filled with tension and raw emotions as the prosecution and defense presented their cases, each vying to sway the jury's decision. The prosecution, led by determined prosecutor Angela Koss, known for her track record of successful convictions, meticulously laid out the evidence against the prime suspect, Devin Trilogy. They presented the jury with a compelling argument, weaving together a narrative that painted Devin as a man driven by secrets and betrayal. The prosecution called upon witnesses who testified to Devin's volatile temper and his connection to the murder weapon, a steak knife found in the Trilogy household. The defense, represented by Cole Robbie, a skilled attorney renowned for his ability to cast doubt on the prosecution's claims, sought to challenge the evidence presented. They questioned the reliability of the witnesses, highlighting inconsistencies in their testimonies. The defense argued that there was no concrete proof linking Devin to the crime and urged the jury to consider alternative theories. Throughout the trial, Jennifer's grieving family sat in the courtroom, their eyes fixed on the proceedings. They clung to the hope that justice would be served for their beloved daughter, sister, and friend. Friends and supporters of Jennifer filled the gallery, their presence a testament to the impact she had on their lives. As the trial progressed, the media frenzy surrounding the case intensified. Local newspapers, such as the Mesa Tribune, dedicated coverage to the trial, providing daily updates on the proceedings. Television news stations, including Channel 8 News, broadcasted reports from outside the courthouse, capturing the public's attention. After days of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. The courtroom fell silent as the jury foreperson stood and announced that Devon Trelegy was found guilty of first-degree murder. The room erupted with a mix of relief and sorrow, as Jennifer's family and friends processed the weight of the decision. Devon was subsequently sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentencing brought a sense of closure for Jennifer's loved ones, knowing that the person responsible for her untimely death would be held accountable. The impact of the verdict reverberated through the community, forever altering the lives of those involved. Jennifer's memory lives on, not only in the hearts of her family and friends, but also in the collective consciousness of Mesa, Arizona. In the wake of the trial, the lives of those involved took a dramatic turn. Martin O'Hurley, Jennifer's best friend and co-worker, found solace in the support of his friends and family. He enrolled in a local community college, determined to pursue a degree in criminal justice. Inspired by the tireless efforts of the detectives who worked on Jennifer's case, Martin aspired to become a detective himself one day. Stacy Brewer-Guyton, Jennifer's close friend, sought refuge in the healing power of nature. She embarked on a solo hiking trip through the picturesque landscapes of Sedona, Arizona. The breathtaking red rock formations and serene desert vistas provided solace and a sense of peace amidst the chaos that had enveloped her life. Stacy documented her journey on her blog, Wandering Spirit, where she shared her experiences and reflections with her growing community of followers. Devon Trelegy, the cold-blooded murderer, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The trial had exposed the dark underbelly of the seemingly idyllic suburban community, leaving a lasting impact on its residents. The media frenzy surrounding the case had subsided, but the scars remained. As time passed, the wounds began to heal, but the memory of Jennifer and the events surrounding her tragic death remained etched in the collective consciousness of the community. The impact of the case had forever altered the lives of those involved, serving as a somber reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of justice. As we conclude this episode of True Crime Case Files, we are reminded of the chilling events that unfolded in Mesa, Arizona in July 2008. Jennifer Lee Trelegy's life was tragically cut short, exposing a web of secrets, deceit, and betrayal. This story serves as a haunting reminder that darkness can lurk within the seemingly ordinary, and that the pursuit of truth can unveil the most unsettling realities. Join us next time as we delve into another captivating true crime case. Daniel "Danny" Miller, a 45-year-old high school history teacher, was known for his engaging storytelling and unwavering dedication to his students. Residing in Springfield, Missouri, Daniel led a seemingly ordinary life. Beyond his profession, he found solace in his passion for gardening and cherished his role as a devoted father to his 2 children. His amicable nature endeared him to the community, but beneath the surface, rumors swirled about his wife's infidelities, casting a shadow over his personal life. In October 2009, the town of Springfield was abuzz with excitement as the annual Harvest Festival drew near. The streets were adorned with colorful leaves, and the crisp autumn air carried the scent of pumpkin spice. Families flocked to the local pumpkin patch to pick the perfect pumpkins for carving, while children eagerly awaited the haunted hayrides and corn mazes. Daniel Miller, being an avid gardener, was particularly fond of this time of year. He would spend his weekends tending to his lush backyard garden, carefully tilling the soil and nurturing his vibrant collection of flowers and vegetables. His garden was a sanctuary, a place where he could escape the stress of his teaching job and find solace in nature's beauty. Despite his seemingly idyllic life, whispers of trouble had begun to circulate through the town. It was rumored that Daniel's wife, Linda, had been seen in the company of other men. Gossip spread like wildfire, fueled by the small-town grapevine and the insatiable hunger for scandalous tales, and Linda, soon became known as the town harlot. As the days grew shorter and the nights grew colder, tensions mounted within the Miller household. The once happy couple found themselves entangled in a web of suspicion and mistrust. Friends and neighbors noticed the strain in their relationship, but no one could have predicted the tragic turn of events that would soon unfold. In the quiet town of Springfield, Missouri, a shocking event unfolded that would send ripples through the community. On the fateful day of October 28, 2009, the sun began to set, casting an eerie glow over the neighborhood. The air was heavy with anticipation, as if the universe itself sensed something was amiss. It was Linda Miller, wife of the beloved high school history teacher Daniel Miller, who made the chilling discovery. As she entered their home, a sense of unease settled upon her. Little did she know that her life was about to be forever changed. Linda's footsteps echoed through the hallway as she made her way towards the bathroom. The door creaked open, revealing a sight that would haunt her dreams for years to come. There, sitting on the toilet, was the lifeless body of her husband, Daniel. A gasp escaped Linda's lips as she stumbled backward, her heart pounding in her chest. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. How could this happen? Questions flooded her mind, but the answers remained elusive. The room was frozen in time, as if the walls themselves held their breath. The silence was deafening, broken only by Linda's anguished sobs. She reached for her phone, trembling fingers dialing the emergency number. The authorities needed to be notified, and quickly. As Linda waited for help to arrive, her mind raced with memories of happier times. She recalled Daniel's infectious laughter and his dedication to his students. How could someone so full of life meet such a tragic end? News of Daniel Miller's death spread like wildfire throughout the town. The local media buzzed with speculation, eager to uncover the truth behind this mysterious incident. Reporters from the Springfield Gazette and the Evening News arrived at the scene, cameras flashing and microphones poised. Detectives from the Springfield Police Department meticulously combed through the bathroom for any clues that could shed light on what had transpired. The room was meticulously analyzed, from the toothpaste brand on the sink to the magazines scattered on the floor. Every detail mattered in their quest for justice. As the investigation unfolded, the town of Springfield held its breath, anxiously awaiting answers. Who would want to harm Daniel Miller, a man loved and respected by all? And what secrets lay hidden beneath the surface of this seemingly idyllic community? The police officers arrived at the scene with a sense of urgency, ready to uncover the truth behind the untimely demise of Daniel Miller. Leading the investigation was Detective Huey "Ducky" Hughes, a seasoned investigator known for his sharp instincts and attention to detail. Together with his team, they meticulously combed through the crime scene, leaving no stone unturned in their quest for justice. As they entered the bathroom, the officers were met with a chilling sight. The room, once a place of privacy and solace, had been transformed into a macabre scene of death. Bloodstains and a copious amount of blood stained the toilet, indicating violent, bloody, and ultimately fatal diarrhea, a stark contrast to the otherwise pristine surroundings. The officers carefully documented each bloodstain, taking photographs and making detailed notes, ensuring that no piece of evidence went unnoticed. The weapon used in this heinous crime was a lethal dose of antifreeze, cunningly mixed into Daniel's favorite evening drink, sweet iced tea. The investigators found the empty bottle of antifreeze in the kitchen, discarded among other household cleaning supplies. They meticulously collected fingerprints and DNA samples from the bottle, hoping to find a match that would lead them to the perpetrator. As they continued their search for clues, the investigators discovered a torn piece of paper on the bathroom floor. It appeared to be a note, but the words were barely legible. With the help of forensic experts, they carefully pieced together the torn fragments, revealing a cryptic message. The note mentioned a meeting with a divorce lawyer, scheduled for the day of the crime. This discovery sparked a new lead, and the investigators wasted no time in following it up. The investigation into the murder of Daniel Miller was a complex puzzle, with each piece of evidence leading the detectives closer to the truth. The meticulousness and determination of Detective Huey "Ducky" Hughes and his team would prove crucial in solving this chilling crime. In the small town of Springfield, Missouri, back in October of 2009, a shocking crime took place that left the community in disbelief. The victim, Daniel Miller, was a well-liked high school history teacher known for his captivating storytelling and dedication to his students. But behind the facade of a seemingly ordinary life, dark secrets lurked, and it was his wife, Linda Miller, who found herself at the center of the investigation. Linda, a 42-year-old ambitious real estate agent, had always been known for her charm and persuasive skills. Her career had taken off, but unfortunately, her commitment to her family had suffered as a result. Tensions had been building in the Miller household, exacerbated by Linda's habit of serving microwave meals that Daniel despised. The couple's relationship had already been strained by rumors of Linda's extramarital affairs, which had spread like wildfire through the tight-knit community. During the investigation, Linda dropped a bombshell revelation that sent shockwaves through the town. She claimed that Daniel had been having sex with his best friend, Tom Richards. This revelation added another layer of complexity to the case, leaving the police puzzled and questioning the depths of Linda's involvement. The police interrogated Linda, observing her every move and change in demeanor. At times, she appeared angry, lashing out at the investigators with frustration. Other times, she seemed calm and composed, as if she had nothing to hide. But there was something else, an underlying emotion that flickered in her eyes, leaving the investigators curious about what secrets she might be concealing. The media frenzy surrounding the case grew, with local newspapers and television stations covering every twist and turn. The town of Springfield, usually known for its blandly peaceful atmosphere, was now gripped by fear and suspicion. People whispered in hushed tones, speculating about who could be responsible for such a heinous act. As the days turned into weeks, the town of Springfield held its breath, waiting for answers. The investigation into the murder of Daniel Miller had taken a dramatic turn, and the focus now shifted to Linda Miller, the woman at the center of it all. Tom Richards, a 55-year-old mechanic with a rugged and charismatic demeanor, became the next person of interest in the investigation into the tragic demise of Danny Miller. As Daniel's best friend, Tom's connection to the victim raised eyebrows and suspicions among the investigators. The police delved into Tom's background, meticulously examining his every move and interaction with Daniel and Linda Miller. Tom vehemently denied any sexual involvement with Daniel, but he did admit to a tumultuous relationship with the victim. The detectives focused on the moments leading up to Daniel's death, searching for any clues that could shed light on the truth. They delved into their friendship, peeling back the layers of their bond to uncover any hidden tensions or unresolved conflicts. During the investigation, Tom's reactions ranged from anger to calmness, leaving the detectives perplexed. They carefully observed his every word and gesture, searching for any signs of guilt or deception. The investigators knew that the truth often lurked in the unspoken secrets and hidden emotions that lay beneath the surface. As the detectives dug deeper, they discovered that Tom and Linda Miller had a history of confrontations. These incidents added fuel to the fire of suspicion surrounding Tom. The investigators wondered if these conflicts had escalated to a point where Tom would seek revenge against his best friend, or if Linda was trying to blackmail her enemy. The police also explored Tom's alibi for the time of Daniel's death. They meticulously pieced together his movements, cross-referencing them with witness testimonies and surveillance footage from local establishments. The investigators left no stone unturned, determined to uncover the truth behind Daniel's tragic demise. As the investigation into Tom Richards continued, the detectives found themselves entangled in a web of secrets and lies. They knew that the truth was out there, waiting to be unraveled. But would they be able to piece together the puzzle and bring justice to Daniel Miller? In the midst of the investigation into the tragic demise of Danny Miller, the police made a crucial breakthrough. It was a cold, early November day, when snow, early for the season, began to fall, adding to the tension that gripped the investigators and the community. The discovery of this new evidence found hidden in the woods outside Springfield offered a glimmer of hope in uncovering the truth behind the heinous crime. The police painstakingly analyzed the newfound piece of the puzzle, an abandoned hard drive, leaving no stone unturned. They meticulously combed through the evidence, extracting vital information that would propel the investigation forward. The details were shocking and disturbing, shedding light on a dark secret that had been lurking beneath the surface. The evidence revealed that someone had been sexually targeting Danny's class, engaging in sexual activities with over half of the students, both male and female. The sexual encounters took place both inside and outside the school premises, exposing a dark underbelly that had remained hidden from the community's gaze. This revelation sent shockwaves through the community and raised alarming questions about the safety and well-being of the students. The police immediately reached out to the school authorities, who cooperated fully in the investigation. News of the shocking revelations spread like wildfire throughout Springfield, leaving parents and community members in a state of disbelief. The local media, including the Springfield Gazette and the town's radio station, dedicated extensive coverage to the case, urging anyone with information to come forward. The town was gripped with fear and anger, as parents grappled with the unsettling realization that their children had been involved in such salacious acts. As the investigation delved deeper into this disturbing aspect of the case, the police vowed to bring the predator to justice and ensure the safety of the students. They worked tirelessly, aiming to unravel the web of secrets and uncover the identity of the predator who had tarnished the purity of Springfield's teens. In the ongoing investigation into the tragic death of Daniel Miller, a high school history teacher from Springfield, Missouri, the police turned their attention to a surprising new suspect. Laura Day Davis, a senior student known for her empathy and leadership skills, became a person of interest in this puzzling case. Laura, a young woman on the cusp of adulthood, had been an active participant in Daniel's history class, where she displayed a deep admiration for her teacher. However, as the investigation unfolded, shocking revelations came to light about Laura's connection to Linda Miller, Daniel's wife. It appeared that Laura had been involved in a sexual relationship with Linda, a fact that had remained hidden from the community until now. This revelation has raised eyebrows and led investigators to question whether Laura's feelings of jealousy and revenge could have played a role in Daniel's untimely demise. During the police interrogation, Laura's emotions fluctuated, revealing a complex mix of anger, calmness, and something else entirely. The investigators carefully observed her every word and gesture, searching for clues that could shed light on her involvement in this tragic event. As the investigation deepened, it became apparent that Linda Miller had been sexually involved with numerous students in Danny's class, both male and female, in what appeared to be a vengeful act against her husband's perceived infidelity with Tom Richards, Daniel's best friend. This tangled web of relationships and secrets left investigators grappling with the true motives behind Daniel's murder. In November of 2009, the small community of Springfield was gripped by the shocking revelations surrounding the investigation. News outlets, such as the local newspaper the Springfield Gazette, covered the story extensively, leaving residents astounded by the depth of deceit and betrayal that had unfolded within their midst. In November of 2009, the investigation into the brutal murder of Daniel Miller took a shocking turn. The diligent work of the police led them to uncover the true mastermind behind this heinous crime. It was none other than Linda Miller, the wife of the victim. Linda, a 42-year-old ambitious real estate agent, had carefully orchestrated this sinister plot. Motivated by a desire for complete control over their assets and the freedom to continue her illicit relationships, Linda saw Daniel as an obstacle to her happiness and financial independence. She had meticulously planned every detail, ensuring that her involvement remained hidden from prying eyes. With the evidence mounting against her, the police had no choice but to apprehend Linda. On that fateful day, the authorities descended upon her, just as the sun began to set over their quiet suburban neighborhood. The scene was reminiscent of a dramatic movie, with police cars lining the streets and flashing lights illuminating the darkening sky. As Linda was escorted out of her home, the media swarmed around, hungry for the details of this shocking revelation. News cameras captured the moment, broadcasting it to households across the city. Headlines blared with the news of a wife's betrayal and a husband's tragic demise, capturing the attention of a captivated audience. The arrest itself was not without its own drama. Linda's emotions were a whirlwind, as she displayed a range of reactions. Her face, once composed and confident, now contorted with a mix of anger, fear, and disbelief. The media captured every fleeting expression, ensuring that the world witnessed the downfall of a woman who had once seemed so charming and successful. As Linda was led away, the police were left to ponder the depths of her involvement. The investigation had uncovered a web of lies, deceit, and betrayal leaving the community shaken to its core. The small town of Springfield, Missouri, would forever be marked by this tragic event. In November of 2009, the courtroom became the center stage for justice as the trial of Linda Miller, the accused murderer of Daniel Miller, unfolded. The trial was a gripping spectacle that captivated the nation's attention. People from all walks of life tuned in to watch the proceedings, eager to see if justice would prevail. The prosecution, led by seasoned lawyer J. Roy, meticulously presented their case against Linda. They called numerous witnesses, including detectives, forensic experts, and even Daniel's close friends, who testified about Linda's troubled marriage and her alleged extramarital affairs. The evidence against Linda was overwhelming, with the prosecution unveiling phone records, emails, and even surveillance footage that painted a damning picture of her involvement in the crime. On the other side of the courtroom, defense attorney Sarah Claxon Roberts fought fiercely to protect her client's interests. She argued that the evidence presented by the prosecution was circumstantial and failed to prove Linda's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Claxon Roberts attempted to cast doubt on the credibility of the witnesses and questioned the validity of the forensic evidence. The trial lasted for several weeks, with both sides presenting their closing arguments to the jury. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the jurors deliberated over Linda's fate. After hours of careful consideration, the jury reached a unanimous verdict. Linda Miller was found guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom erupted in a mix of emotions: relief for Daniel's family and friends, and shock for Linda and her supporters. The judge, known for his no-nonsense approach, wasted no time in delivering the sentence. Linda was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom fell silent as the weight of the verdict sank in. Linda's fate was sealed, and she would spend the rest of her days behind bars, paying for the heinous crime she committed. As the trial came to a close, the media frenzy surrounding the case slowly subsided. The Miller family, though forever scarred by the tragedy, found solace in the fact that justice had been served. The community of Springfield, Missouri, rallied around them, offering support and condolences during this difficult time. In the end, the trial of Linda Miller served as a stark reminder of the fragility of human relationships and the devastating consequences of betrayal. It was a chapter in history that would forever be etched in the memories of those who lived through it. After the dramatic conclusion of the trial, the lives of those involved took different paths as they tried to find a sense of normalcy in the aftermath of the shocking events. The suspects, the police, and the victim's family all faced the daunting task of rebuilding their lives, forever impacted by the betrayal and tragedy that unfolded. Linda Miller, the mastermind behind the heinous crime, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She was transferred to the Missouri State Penitentiary, a maximum security facility known for housing some of the state's most dangerous criminals. The community, still reeling from the shocking revelations, found some solace in knowing that justice had been served. Detective Huey "Ducky" Hughes and his team, hailed as heroes for their relentless pursuit of the truth, continued their work in the Springfield Police Department. Their dedication and meticulousness in solving Daniel Miller's murder earned them accolades from their superiors and the community. The victim's family, devastated by their loss, sought solace in their memories of Daniel and the support of their friends and neighbors. They held a private memorial service at the Green Lawn Funeral Home, where family and friends gathered to pay their respects. The service was marked by tears, heartfelt eulogies, and a sense of unity among those who loved Daniel. As the years passed, the community slowly healed from the wounds inflicted by the tragedy. Springfield, known for its vibrant community spirit, rallied together to support the Miller family and remember Daniel's legacy as a beloved teacher. The local high school, where Daniel had taught for many years, established a scholarship in his honor, ensuring that his passion for education would live on. As the years went by, the wounds slowly healed, but the memory of Daniel Miller and the tragic events surrounding his murder remained etched in the collective consciousness of the Springfield community. The story served as a reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing those we hold dear. And there you have it, the haunting tale of betrayal and murder that unfolded in Springfield, Missouri. The web of secrets, lies, and infidelity tore apart the lives of those involved, leaving an indelible mark on the community. Myra Everson was a 25-year-old woman full of life and love. She lived in Bentonville, Arkansas, a small town known for being the home of Walmart, America's #1 retailer. Myra was very creative and loved helping people. She worked at a homeless shelter called Helping Hands and was very passionate about her job. Myra often organized events to raise money and collect donations for the shelter. She was well known in the community for her kindness and dedication. Myra was also very involved in the local art community. She loved painting and often participated in art shows and exhibitions. Her favorite place to visit was the Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art. She would spend hours there, admiring the works of famous artists and getting inspiration for her own creations. Myra grew up in Bentonville and went to Bentonville High School, where she was an excellent student. She was especially good at English and art. Her parents were Reverend Azazel Everson and Clara Everson. Clara passed away when Myra was only 10 years old, leaving her to be raised by her strict and controlling father. Despite her father's harsh ways, Myra remained optimistic and cheerful. She had a younger sister, Lyra, who she was very close to. Lyra often described Myra as her best friend and biggest supporter. Myra had a close-knit group of friends, including Lily Harrington, who also worked at the homeless shelter. Myra had big dreams for the future. She wanted to open her own art studio where people could come and create art together. She often talked about her plans with excitement, sharing her vision of a space filled with colorful paintings and happy people. In the days before her death, Myra was busy preparing for an art exhibition that was scheduled for the end of October 1992. She was very excited about it and spent a lot of time working on her paintings. Myra's vibrant personality and warm heart made her a beloved member of the Bentonville community. She had a way of making everyone around her feel special and loved. Her sudden and tragic death left a huge void in the lives of those who knew and loved her. On the morning of October 14, 1992, Bentonville, Arkansas, was experiencing a chilly and overcast day. At around 8 a.m., Myra's friend and coworker, Lily Harrington, went to Myra's house. They had planned to carpool to work at the Helping Hands homeless shelter, just like they did every day. When Lily arrived, she noticed that the front door was slightly open. Thinking Myra might have stepped out for a moment, she called out her name but received no response. Lily hesitated for a moment, feeling a growing sense of unease. She pushed the door open and stepped inside. The living room was eerily quiet, and there was a chill in the air. As she walked further into the house, she saw Myra lying on the living room floor. Lily froze in horror, unable to believe what she was seeing. Myra's face was pale, and her left hand was terribly mangled, with 3 fingers missing. Lily's heart raced as she rushed to check for signs of life, but it was clear that Myra was gone. Overwhelmed by shock and fear, Lily stumbled back and grabbed the kitchen phone to dial 911. Her voice was shaky and full of panic as she described the scene to the dispatcher. She could hardly believe that her friend was dead. The news of Myra's death spread quickly through Bentonville. By the time the police arrived, a small crowd had begun to gather outside her house. The brutal nature of Myra's murder left them with many questions. Why would someone do this to such a beloved member of the community? As the investigation began, the people of Bentonville were left in shock and fear, wondering who could have committed such a terrible crime. The police arrived quickly at Mayor Everson's house on the morning of October 14, 1992. The weather was chilly and overcast, matching the grim mood. Detective Samuel E. Myra, a seasoned investigator known for his thoroughness, led the team. Detective Karen Genora, his sharp and observant partner, was by his side. When the detectives entered the living room, they were met with a disturbing scene. The room was in disarray, with furniture knocked over and items scattered. A blood-stained belt lay on the floor, clearly the murder weapon used to strangle Myra. The sight was shocking even to the experienced detectives. Myra's body showed signs of a violent struggle, and her left hand was horribly mutilated, with 3 fingers ripped off. Detective Myra and Genora carefully examined the crime scene. They documented everything, taking numerous photographs and making detailed notes. They collected the belt and other potential evidence, such as fingerprints and fibers. The detectives also noticed a broken lamp and several books scattered around, suggesting Myra fought hard against her attacker. Forensics teams arrived shortly after to assist with the investigation. They used various tools and methods to gather evidence. They dusted for fingerprints, collected hair and fiber samples, and searched for any other clues that might help identify the murderer. The brutality of the crime indicated a deep personal motive, and the detectives knew they had to work quickly to solve the case. Neighbors and bystanders watched in silence as the police worked. Bentonville was a close-knit community, and the news of Myra's murder had already begun to spread. People were shocked and scared, unable to comprehend why someone would kill such a beloved young woman. Detective Emera interviewed Lily Harrington, who had found Myra's body. Lily was still in shock but managed to provide a detailed account of her discovery. She described how she found the front door ajar and the horrible sight of Myra's lifeless body on the living room floor. Her testimony gave the detectives a clearer picture of the timeline. The investigation team also spoke to neighbors, asking if anyone had seen or heard anything unusual that morning. Some reported hearing raised voices late at night, while others mentioned seeing a strange car parked nearby. The detectives took note of every detail, knowing that even the smallest clue could be crucial. As the day went on, the police continued their investigation, determined to find justice for Myra. The crime scene was methodically combed for evidence, and the detectives began to piece together the tragic events leading to her death. The investigation into Myra Everson's murder quickly turned to her father, Reverend Azazel Everson. Azazel was a well-known figure in Bentonville, Arkansas, respected for his role as a preacher. At 56 years old, he was charming and sociable, often seen as a pillar of the community. However, beneath his outward charm, Azazel had a dark and controlling side that few knew about. Detective Samuel Emera and Detective Karen Genora brought Azazel in for questioning on October 15, 1992. They met him at the police station, a stark contrast to the comforting atmosphere of his church. Azazel maintained a calm demeanor, but there was a noticeable tension in his eyes. During the interrogation, the detectives asked Azazel about his relationship with Myra. He spoke fondly of her, but avoided details about their conflicts. However, the detectives knew from Myra's friends that she often clashed with her father. Azazel disapproved of Myra's independence and her love for books, which he saw as a rebellion against his strict beliefs, a common situation in a region where only 31% of women can read. Azazel's alibi was weak. He claimed to have been at home alone on the night of Myra's murder, reading the book of Revelations and preparing his sermon. When asked if anyone could verify his whereabouts, Azazel became defensive, insisting his word should be enough. The detectives pressed further, asking about any recent arguments with Myra. Azazel admitted to a heated disagreement a few days before her death, but downplayed its significance. He said it was a typical father-daughter dispute. However, the detectives knew that Myra had confided in friends about her father's controlling nature and his anger over her reading habits. Despite his outward calm, Azazel showed signs of nervousness. He fidgeted with his hands and avoided direct eye contact. The detectives noted these behaviors, sensing there was more beneath the surface. Azazel's motive seemed clear. He wanted to control Myra's life and eliminate anything he saw as a threat to his authority. To gather more evidence, the police obtained a search warrant for Azazel's house. Inside, they found a hidden room in the basement. The room contained disturbing items, including restraints and various books on punishment and control. This discovery painted a darker picture of Azazel's true nature and his obsession with dominance. As the investigation continued, Azazel remained a prime suspect. His secretive and controlling behavior, combined with his weak alibi and the hidden room, made him a focal point for the detectives. They knew they had to keep digging to uncover the full truth behind Myra's tragic death. As the investigation into Myra Everson's murder continued, the detectives turned their attention to Janice Lovias. Janice was a 59-year-old oil driller from Oklahoma known for her determination and resourcefulness. She had a reputation for uncovering difficult truths and was known for her tenacity in the male-dominated field of oil drilling. On October 17, 1992, Detectives Samuel Emera and Karen Genora traveled to Oklahoma to interview Janice. They met her at her modest home, which was filled with mementos from her work and travels. Janice greeted them with a firm handshake, her eyes sharp and inquisitive. During the interview, Janice spoke openly about her relationship with Myra. She admitted that they had become close friends and had even formed a sexual relationship. Janice revealed that Myra had hired her to kill Reverend Azazel Everson after he beat her for reading a novel by the novelist Joyce Lehman. Janice explained that she had grown protective of Myra and wanted to help her escape her father's control. When asked about her whereabouts on the night of Myra's murder, Janice provided a solid alibi. She was working on an oil rig out in West Texas and had several coworkers who could confirm her presence. Despite her strong alibi, the detectives were intrigued by her connection to Myra and her deep-seated hatred for Azazel. Jannalise described Azazel as a cruel and manipulative man who used his position as a preacher to control and abuse his daughter. She spoke passionately about how she wanted to free Myra from his grasp. Although she admitted to planning to kill Azazel, she insisted she had nothing to do with Myra's murder. Throughout the interview, Jannalise remained calm and composed. She answered the detectives' questions directly and showed no signs of nervousness. Her demeanor and clear alibi made it difficult for the detectives to connect her directly to the murder. However, her close relationship with Myra and her intense dislike for Azazel kept her on their radar. As the investigation into Jannalise continued, the detectives knew they had to explore every angle. Her strong alibi and open demeanor contrasted sharply with the disturbing nature of the crime, leaving the detectives with more questions than answers. They remained determined to uncover the truth and bring justice to Myra Everson. On October 20, 1992, Bentonville was experiencing a crisp, clear morning. At around 9:00 a.m., a local jogger was running along a wooded trail near Myra Everson's home. As he made his way through the path, he noticed something unusual in the bushes. Curious, he stopped to take a closer look and discovered a small, blood-stained bag partially buried under some leaves. He quickly called the police, and Detective Samuel E. Myra and Detective Karen Genora arrived at the scene shortly after. They carefully retrieved the bag and examined its contents. Inside, they found 3 severed fingers wrapped in a piece of cloth. The detectives immediately realized these were likely Myra's missing fingers. The discovery of the bag and fingers was a significant breakthrough in the case. The detectives meticulously documented the evidence and sent the bag to the forensics lab for further analysis. The lab confirmed that the fingers belonged to Myra, and the cloth was identified as part of a shirt belonging to Reverend Azazel Everson. The detectives interviewed Brian Daniels to gather more information about the discovery. Ryan described how he stumbled upon the bag while jogging and noted that he hadn't seen anyone suspicious in the area. His account was clear and straightforward, providing the detectives with a better understanding of how the evidence had been hidden. With this new evidence, the detectives turned their attention back to Reverend Azazel Everson. They believed the discovery of the fingers and the cloth linked him more closely to the crime. They obtained a search warrant for his home and conducted a thorough search. Inside Azazel's bedroom, they found a blood-stained shirt that matched the cloth found in the bag. This discovery further implicated Azazel in Myra's murder. The police also re-interviewed Lee Harrington, Myra's friend who had found her body. Lee recalled that Myra had been worried about her father's increasingly erratic behavior in the days leading up to her death. Myra had confided in Lee about her fear that her father might harm her. This testimony, combined with the new evidence, strengthened the case against Azazel. Detectives E. Myra and Genora knew they were getting closer to solving the case. The discovery of the bag and the forensic evidence provided crucial links that pointed towards Azazel as the prime suspect. The detectives continued to gather evidence, determined to bring justice to Myra Everson and uncover the full truth behind her tragic death. As the investigation into Myra Everson's murder progressed, Detectives Samuel E. Myra and Karen Genora discovered another tragic connection. On October 22, 1992, they received a report about the murder of Faria Haddon, a 28-year-old woman living in the nearby town of Fayetteville. Faria, like Myra, had been strangled with a belt, and 3 fingers were ripped off her left hand. Faria was known for her ambition and dedication to her work as an escort. She was discreet about her job, but had been in a secret relationship with Reverend Azazel Everson for over a year. Detectives Myra and Genora quickly realized the connection between the 2 murders and decided to investigate further. They traveled to Faria's apartment, a small but tidy place decorated with simple but elegant furnishings. Inside, the crime scene was eerily similar to Myra's. The living room showed signs of a struggle, with furniture overturned and a blood-stained belt lying on the floor. Faria's body was found in the same manner as Myra's, with her fingers missing. Detectives interviewed Faria's neighbors and acquaintances. They learned that Faria admired Azazel's charisma and saw him as her escape from a life of poverty. She had confided in a close friend about her relationship with Azazel. The friend described Faria as a hopeful and driven person who wanted a better life for herself. The detectives also found a diary in Faria's apartment where she had written about her relationship with Azazel. The diary entries revealed that Faria had discovered something disturbing about Azazel's secret life. She had found evidence linking him to illegal drug running and was planning to confront him. This discovery provided a possible motive for her murder. During the investigation, the detectives interrogated Azazel again. He was visibly more nervous this time, but he maintained his innocence. He admitted to knowing Faria, but denied any involvement in her death. His alibi for the night of Faria's murder was weak, just like his alibi for Myra's murder. Despite Azazel's denials, the detectives continued to dig deeper. They cross-referenced evidence from both crime scenes and found striking similarities. The belts used in both murders were of the same brand and size, and the method of strangulation was identical. The detectives also found fibers from Azazel's clothes on both victims, further implicating him in the crimes. The investigation into Faria's murder added a new layer of complexity to the case. The detectives were now dealing with a serial killer who had targeted 2 women connected to Azazel. They knew they had to act quickly to prevent any further tragedies and bring the murderer to justice. On October 25, 1992, Bentonville, Arkansas, woke up to a cool, rainy morning. Detective Samuel E. Mira and Detective Karen Genora had just received a breakthrough in their investigation. Forensic analysis of the evidence from both Myra Everson and Faria Haddon's murders pointed to a new suspect, Mark David Lilius, the husband of Janelise Lilius. Mark David, a 61-year-old traveling revivalist preacher, was known for his charismatic sermons. However, his public persona hid a dark secret. He was leading a double life as a serial killer. He had carefully constructed an alibi by frequently traveling, which made it difficult to connect him to the crimes initially. Detective E. Mira and Detective Genora pieced together that Mark David had murdered Myra to prevent her from exposing his double life. Myra had discovered incriminating evidence against Mark David through his wife, Janelise, with whom she had a sexual relationship. Faria had also found evidence of Mark David's involvement in Myra's affair and planned to confront him. To silence her, he killed her in the same brutal manner. The detectives coordinated with local police in Tulsa to track down Mark David. On the evening of October 25, they located him at a revival meeting he was hosting. The weather was stormy, with heavy rain pounding on the roof of the small church where he happened to be preaching. The police moved in quietly, not wanting to alarm the attendees. Mark David was taken into custody without resistance. He seemed surprised by the arrest but remained calm. At the police station, he was interrogated by detectives E. Mira and Genora. Initially, he denied any involvement, but the overwhelming evidence against him quickly broke down his facade. He confessed to the murders, explaining that he killed Myra and Faria to protect his secret life as a serial killer. He believed that if his double life were exposed, it would ruin his reputation and his wife's trust. His calm demeanor during the confession was chilling, revealing the cold and calculating nature of his crimes. The arrest of Mark David Lilius brought a mix of relief and sorrow to Bentonville. Myra's family, devastated by the loss, expressed a sense of closure knowing the murderer was caught. Faria's friends and family also found some peace in the justice served. The detectives felt the sense of accomplishment, but were also saddened by the brutal nature of the crimes. They had worked tirelessly to bring justice to Myra and Faria, and now their efforts had paid off. Bentonville could begin to heal, knowing that the person responsible for these heinous acts was behind bars. In June of 1994, the trial of Mark David Lilius, the murderer of Myra Everson and Faria Haddon, began in Bentonville, Arkansas. The prosecution was led by District Attorney Sarah Jane Kersey, a seasoned lawyer known for her dedication to justice. The defense attorney was Robert Luley, a skilled lawyer with a reputation for defending high-profile cases. The courtroom was packed with spectators, eager to see justice served for the victims. Myra's family, including her sister Lyra Everson, sat in the front row, their faces filled with a mix of grief and determination. Faria's friends and supporters were also present, showing solidarity with her memory. During the trial, the prosecution presented a compelling case against Mark David Lilius. They called witnesses, including Detective Samuel E. Mira and forensic experts, to testify about the evidence linking Mark David to the murders. They also played recordings of Mark David's confession, highlighting his chilling admission of guilt. District Attorney Kersey argued that Mark David's motive for the murders was to protect his double life as a serial killer. She painted him as a cold and calculating individual who was willing to kill to preserve his reputation and keep his secrets hidden. Her impassioned closing argument resonated with the jury and the spectators alike. Defense attorney Robert Luley attempted to create doubt in the minds of the jurors. He questioned the reliability of the evidence and argued that Mark David's confession may have been coerced. He also portrayed Mark David as a devoted man of faith and pillar of the community, trying to humanize him in the eyes of the jury. After several weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. Mark David Lilius was found guilty on all counts of murder. The courtroom erupted in applause as the verdict was read aloud. Myra's family embraced each other, tears of relief stringing down their faces. Faria's friends hugged each other tightly, finding solace in the knowledge that justice had been served for their friend. Mark David was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentence brought closure to the families of Myra and Faria, knowing that Mark David would spend the rest of his life behind bars. The trial and sentencing of Mark David Lilius marked the end of a long and painful chapter for Bentonville. The community could finally begin to heal, knowing that the person responsible for the murders had been held accountable for his actions. After the trial and sentencing of Mark David Lilius, life in Bentonville began to return to a semblance of normalcy. Myra Everson and Faria Haddon were remembered fondly by their loved ones, who found solace in their memories. For Myra's family, the verdict brought a sense of closure, but the pain of her loss lingered. Her sister, Lydia Everson, continued to honor her memory by volunteering at the homeless shelter where Myra had worked. Lydia found comfort in helping others, knowing it was what Myra would have wanted. Faria's friends organized the memorial event in her honor, inviting members of the community to share their memories of her. They created a scholarship fund in her name to support young women pursuing higher education, a cause that Faria had been passionate about. Detectives Samuel Imera and Karen Genora were hailed as heroes for their tireless efforts in solving the case. They received awards for their dedication to justice and continued to serve the community with distinction. As for Janelise Lilius, she struggled to come to terms with the truth about her husband's crimes. She distanced herself from the media attention surrounding the trial and focused on rebuilding her life. Despite the betrayal she felt, she found solace in the support of friends and family. The people of Bentonville rallied together in the aftermath of the trial, united in their determination to move forward. They held fundraisers and community events to support the families of the victims and to raise awareness about domestic violence and the importance of seeking help. Bentonville, once haunted by tragedy, emerged stronger than ever, a testament to the power of unity and justice. Rick Romert Rales was 44 years old. He worked as a real estate agent in Guelph, Ontario. He was very good at his job, known for being friendly and outgoing. Rick loved to make people laugh with his jokes and pranks. One of his most famous pranks was when he forced his wife, Carly, to get a haircut by getting her down to the floor and shaving off all of her hair. He posted a video of the prank on social media, and it went viral, getting thousands of views. This prank caused a lot of tension between Rick and Carly. Rick lived in a nice house in Guelph with Carly and their 2 kids, Insure and Wheels. Rick went to school in Guelph and later studied business at a local college. He married Carly when he was 30, and they had been together for 14 years. Rick's parents, Tom and Betty, lived nearby and were very close to him and his family. He also had a brother named Tim, who lived in Toronto. Rick was very active on social media, especially on Facebook and YouTube. He loved sharing funny videos and pictures of his life. He had a lot of followers who enjoyed his content. Rick was always thinking of new ideas for pranks and jokes to share with his audience. He liked to stay current with trends and often talked about popular shows and events, like Canadian Idol and hockey. In the days before his death, Rick was busy with work, meeting clients and showing houses. He was also planning more pranks and spending time with his family. Rick seemed happy and full of energy. He had a big personality and was always the center of attention at gatherings. Rick's dream was to become even more famous and successful. He wanted to grow his social media following and maybe even get his own TV show. He often talked about these dreams with his friends and family. Rick was a very driven person, always working towards his goals. Despite his playful nature, Rick cared deeply about his family. He wanted to provide a good life for Carly and their children. However, the forced haircut prank had caused a big rift between him and Carly. She felt humiliated and angry, which led to a lot of tension in their home. This tension was still present in the days leading up to Rick's tragic death. On January 15, 2009, the weather in Guelph, Ontario was cold and snowy. It was early in the morning, around 7:00 a.m. The sun was just starting to rise, but the sky was still gray. Carly Romert Rales, Rick's wife, woke up and went to check on Rick. She found him in their bathroom. He was naked and lying in the bathtub, which was filled with water. A hairdryer was in the water, and it looked like Rick had been electrocuted. Carly was in shock. She screamed and called 911 right away. Her voice was shaky as she tried to explain what had happened. She told the operator that her husband was not breathing and that it looked like he had been electrocuted. The 911 operator tried to calm her down and told her to stay on the line until help arrived. The first person to arrive at the scene was Officer Alan Carter. He was a local police officer who had been with the Guelph Police Department for 10 years. When he entered the house, he saw Carly sitting on the floor, crying and shaking. She pointed to the bathroom and told him that Rick was in there. Officer Carter went into the bathroom and saw Rick in the tub. It was clear that Rick was dead. Carly was very upset and kept saying that Rick's death was an accident. The police were not sure what to think. They needed to find out more about what had happened that morning, and whether Rick's death was really an accident or something more sinister. As news of Rick's death spread, the community was shocked. Rick was well known in Guelph, and many people couldn't believe that he was gone. His friends and family were heartbroken, and everyone wanted to know what had really happened in that bathroom on that cold January morning. The Guelph police arrived quickly at the Romert Rails home on January 15, 2009. Detective Collie McKinney led the investigation. Detective McKinney was known for her sharp mind and had worked on many important cases in Guelph. She and her team immediately began to carefully examine the scene. The bathroom where Rick was found was very clean, except for the bathtub. Rick's body was in the tub, and the water was still. The hairdryer was floating in the water, and it was clear that he had been electrocuted. Detective McKinney thought the scene looked suspiciously neat, as if someone had set it up to look like an accident. Detective McKinney and her team used various tools to gather evidence. They took photographs of the bathroom and the rest of the house. They also collected fingerprints and any other physical evidence they could find. They tested the hairdryer to see if it was working properly and looked for any signs of tampering. The police talked to Carly Romert Rails first. She was very upset and kept saying that Rick's death was an accident. She explained that Rick often played pranks and that he might have been trying to do something funny with the hairdryer. However, the police found it hard to believe that Rick would risk his life for a prank. Next, Detective McKinney talked to neighbors and friends. They wanted to know if anyone had seen or heard anything unusual that morning. Some neighbors mentioned that they had heard Carly and Rick arguing the night before. Others said that Rick had been acting strangely lately, posting more and more prank videos on social media. The police also looked into Rick's social media accounts. They watched the video of the forced haircut prank he had done on Carly. The video showed a laughing Rick pinning Carly down to the floor and shaving off her hair while she screamed and cried. This video had caused a lot of tension in their marriage, and the police thought it might be a motive for Carly to harm Rick. As they continued to investigate, the police found more evidence that suggested Rick's death was not an accident. They discovered that the bathroom floor was not wet, which could have caused Rick to slip. They also found some footprints that didn't match Rick's or Carly's shoes. This made them think that someone else might have been in the house that morning. Detective McKinney and her team worked tirelessly to piece together the clues. They used all the tools at their disposal, including forensic analysis and interviews with everyone who knew Rick and Carly. They were determined to find out the truth about what had happened in that bathroom on the cold January morning. The investigation was complex, and the police knew they had to be thorough. Every detail mattered, and they were determined to uncover the truth behind Rick Romert Rails' tragic death. The first suspect in Rick Romert Rails' death was his wife, Carly Romert Rails. Carly was 36 years old and worked as an interior designer. She was known for being very talented and creative, with a keen eye for detail. Her work was popular among high-end clients, and she had a good reputation in Guelph. Carly was usually calm and mild-mannered, but the forced haircut prank had pushed her to her limits. It caused a significant strain on her marriage and her relationship with her young children, Insure and Wheels, named by people on the internet as part of a publicity stunt. The police brought Carly in for questioning. Detective Collie McKinney led the interrogation. Carly looked tired and upset, but she tried to stay composed. She explained that Rick's prank had humiliated her. He had shared the video of the prank on social media, and it had gone viral. Carly felt embarrassed and angry. Despite this, she insisted that she had not hurt Rick. She said that his death was a terrible accident. Detective McKinney asked Carly about the night before Rick's death. Carly admitted that they had argued. She was still angry about the prank, and Rick didn't seem to understand how much he had hurt her. Carly said that after the argument, Rick went to sleep in the guest room, and she stayed in their bedroom. The police also asked Carly about the morning she found Rick's body. Carly said she woke up early and went to check on Rick. She found him in the bathtub, with a hairdryer in the water. She was in shock and didn't know what to do, so she called 911. Carly's stories seemed consistent, but the police needed more evidence. To learn more, Detective McKinney and her team looked into Carly's background. They found that Carly had a clean record and was well-liked by her friends and clients. However, they also discovered that Carly had been under a lot of stress lately. The forced haircut prank had not only hurt her emotionally but also affected her work. Some clients had seen the video and canceled their contracts with her. The police also examined Carly's social media accounts. They saw that she had posted several messages expressing her frustration and sadness after the prank. Some of her friends had commented, offering support and telling her to stay strong. The messages showed that Carly was deeply affected by what Rick had done. Despite Carly's claims that she was innocent, the police knew they had to consider all possibilities. They continued to investigate, looking for any clues that might prove or disprove Carly's involvement in Rick's death. They were determined to find the truth and bring justice to Rick and his family. The second suspect in Rick Romertrail's death was Mike Chattelvecchio, Rick's business partner. Mike was 40 years old and known for being very practical and business-focused. He was the serious one in their partnership, balancing out Rick's playful nature. However, Mike had become increasingly frustrated with Rick's lack of professionalism and the distractions caused by Rick's social media antics. One of Rick's pranks had even forced Mike to make out with Carly on camera, adding to his embarrassment. The police brought Mike in for questioning. Detective Collie McKinney led the interrogation. Mike looked calm but tired. He explained that he had been working hard to keep their real estate business afloat. The recent financial issues had put a lot of stress on him. He admitted that Rick's constant pranks and social media stunts were causing problems for the business. However, Mike insisted that he would never hurt Rick. Detective McKinney asked Mike about his relationship with Rick. Mike said that they had been friends for many years and had built their business together. He admitted that Rick's behavior had become more erratic lately, especially after the haircut prank. Mike said he had talked to Rick about focusing more on their business and less on social media, but Rick didn't seem to take him seriously. The police also asked Mike about his whereabouts on the morning of Rick's death. Mike said he had been at home, preparing for a meeting with a client. He had no alibi, but he seemed confident that he had nothing to hide. Detective McKinney found Mike's demeanor interesting. He was calm and collected, which made her wonder if he was hiding something. The police looked into Mike's background. They found that he had a clean record and was respected in the business community. However, they also discovered that Mike had been dealing with a lot of stress. The financial issues and Rick's antics were taking a toll on him. Some colleagues mentioned that Mike had expressed frustration with Rick's behavior and had even considered ending their partnership. The police examined Mike's emails and phone records. They found several messages where Mike had complained about Rick's pranks and the impact they were having on their business. In one email, Mike had written to a friend saying, "I don't know how much more of Rick's nonsense I can take." This showed that Mike was at his wit's end. Despite Mike's claims of innocence, the police knew they had to consider him a serious suspect. They continued to gather evidence and question other people who knew Mike and Rick. They needed to find out if Mike's frustration had reached a breaking point and if he had a motive to harm his business partner. The investigation into Mike's involvement in Rick's death was complex. The police were determined to uncover the truth and ensure that justice was served. The third suspect in Rick Romertrail's death was Emily Harris Kang, Rick's social media manager. Emily was 22 years old, ambitious, and very tech-savvy. She helped Rick grow his online presence and loved the thrill of internet fame. Emily enjoyed the benefits that came with managing a popular social media account, but her relationship with Rick was complicated. They had a secret affair, and Emily was jealous of Rick's wife, Carly. The police brought Emily in for questioning. Detective Collie McKinney led the interrogation. Emily looked nervous but tried to stay calm. She explained that she had worked closely with Rick for over a year. She helped him plan and post his prank videos, including the infamous forced haircut prank. Emily said that Rick was always full of ideas and that she was just following his lead. Detective McKinney asked Emily about her relationship with Rick. Emily hesitated but eventually admitted that they had been romantically involved. She said that Rick had promised to leave Carly for her, but he never did. This made her feel used and betrayed. Emily insisted that she cared about Rick and would never hurt him. The police also asked Emily about her whereabouts on the morning of Rick's death. Emily said she was at her apartment, working on new content for Rick's social media accounts. She provided her computer as evidence, showing the work she had done that morning. Detective McKinney noted that Emily's alibi seemed solid, but decided to dig deeper. The police looked into Emily's background. They found that she had always been a high achiever, excelling in school and earning a scholarship to a local university. Emily was very active on social media and had a large following of her own. However, they also discovered that Emily had a history of jealousy and had been involved in several heated arguments with other women over Rick. Despite Emily's claims of innocence, the police knew they had to consider her a serious suspect. They continued to gather evidence and question other people who knew her and Rick. They needed to find out if Emily's jealousy and frustration had driven her to harm Rick. The investigation into Emily's involvement in Rick's death was thorough. The police were determined to uncover the truth and ensure that justice was served. On January 20, 2009, the weather in Guelph, Ontario was cold and snowy. It was around 10 o'clock a.m. when the police received a call from a neighbor of the Rombert family. The neighbor had found something unusual while walking their dog near a park close to the house. The neighbor noticed a small hidden camera in the bushes and knew the camera hadn't been there before and called the police immediately. Detective Collie McKinney and her team arrived quickly. They carefully retrieved the camera and took it to the police station for examination. The team was surprised to find that the camera was still working and had recorded footage. They hoped it might provide new clues about Rick's death. At the station, the police reviewed the footage. It discovered that Rick had installed several hidden cameras around the house. He had set them up after the forced haircut prank, suspecting that Carly might try to get revenge. The footage showed the night of January 14 when Carly and Rick had a heated argument about the prank. Rick had accused Carly of being too sensitive, while Carly had expressed how humiliated and hurt she felt. The most crucial part of the footage was from the morning of January 15. The camera in the bathroom showed Rick entering the tub with the hairdryer. At first, it seemed like he was playing another prank. However, as Rick plugged in the hairdryer, he slipped on the wet floor and accidentally knocked the hairdryer into the tub, causing his own electrocution. The footage revealed that Rick's death was not a premeditated murder. Detective McKinney and her team were shocked by this discovery. They realized that Rick had set up the cameras to catch Carly, but instead they had captured his own fatal mistake. This new evidence changed the direction of the investigation completely. The police called Carly to the station to show her the footage. Carly was devastated and broke down in tears. She couldn't believe that Rick's death was an accident and not a result of foul play. Detective McKinney explained to Carly that Rick had set up the cameras because he was afraid she might retaliate for the prank. Carly was heartbroken, knowing that Rick had mistrusted her and that his actions had led to his own death. With this new evidence, the police were able to close the case. They informed the community and the media about the true cause of Rick's death. The community was relieved but saddened by the tragic accident. The investigation had revealed the truth, and the police have ensured that justice was served. When the police announced that Rick Rombert's death was an accident, the community of Guelph, Ontario, was both shocked and relieved. The news conference on January 25, 2009, explained the events leading up to Rick's death. However, the authorities decided to proceed with a trial to bring all facts to light. The trial began in early February 2009. The prosecutor, Alan Allen, 45, was known for his no-nonsense approach. He was determined to present all the evidence, including Rick's emails and the footage from the hidden cameras. Allen argued that while Rick's death was accidental, it was important to understand the full context and the events leading up to it. The defense attorney, Margaret Golly, 38, was equally determined to clear Carly Rombert's name. Margaret was compassionate and had a reputation for defending those wrongfully accused. She presented evidence of Carly's character and how the prank deeply affected her emotionally, but did not make her a murderer. During the trial, the courtroom was tense. Carly sat quietly, supported by her family. Rick's friends and family watched the proceedings, their faces showing a mix of sadness and relief. The prosecutor played the footage showing Rick slipping and knocking the hairdryer into the bathtub. This was the key evidence that confirmed his death was an accident. The jury deliberated for 2 days. On February 15, 2009, they returned with their verdict. They found that no one was guilty of murder and that Rick's death was indeed an accident. The judge echoed this sentiment in his closing remarks, emphasizing the tragic nature of the event and how it was a result of a series of unfortunate incidents rather than intentional harm. Carly's reaction to the verdict was a mix of relief and sorrow. She was grateful to be exonerated, but deeply mourned her husband. The community's response was supportive. Many people offered their condolences to Carly and her children, Insure and Wheels, understanding the emotional turmoil they had endured. The trial's conclusion brought a sense of closure to Rick's family and friends. They struggled with the loss but found some comfort in knowing the truth. Carly decided to move away from Gulf to start fresh with her children, hoping to rebuild their lives away from the memories of Rick's tragic death. The police officers involved in the case, especially Detective Carly McKinney, felt a sense of accomplishment for uncovering the truth. However, they also felt the weight of the tragedy and the impact it had on everyone involved. The trial's verdict and sentencing brought an end to the legal process, allowing everyone to begin the slow process of healing and moving forward. After the trial ended, the people involved in Rick Romertrail's case tried to move on with their lives. Carly Romertrail, who had been cleared of any wrongdoing, decided to leave Guelph, Ontario. She felt that starting fresh in a new place would be best for her and her children, Insure and Wheels. In March 2009, Carly moved to Toronto, where she continued her work as an interior designer. She focused on rebuilding her life and creating a stable environment for her kids. Mike Chetelvecchio, Rick's business partner, was also deeply affected by the events. After the trial, he took some time off to reflect and reconsider his future. By mid-2009, Mike decided to step away from the real estate business. He sold his shares and moved to Vancouver to start anew, focusing on a different career path. Mike wanted to leave behind the memories of the stressful partnership and the tragic loss of his friend. Emily Harris-Kang, the social media manager, found it hard to cope with the loss and the scandal surrounding Rick's death. She took a break from social media to focus on her mental health. By the end of 2009, Emily had decided to pursue further education, enrolling in a marketing program at a local university. She aimed to rebuild her career with a fresh perspective and new skills. Detective Carly McKinney and her team continued their work in the Guelph Police Department. The case had been a significant challenge for them, and solving it brought a sense of accomplishment. Detective McKinney was praised for her thorough investigation and dedication to uncovering the truth. She used the experience to mentor new officers, emphasizing the importance of attention to detail and perseverance in solving cases. Rick's family and friends had mixed feelings about the outcome. While they were relieved to know that his death was an accident, the loss remained painful. They struggled with the fact that Rick's own actions had led to his tragic end. Over time, they found some comfort in remembering the good times they shared with him. The community of Guelph also felt the impact of the case. The news had shocked the town, but the trial and its conclusion helped bring a sense of closure. People were more cautious and aware of the importance of addressing personal conflicts and mental health issues. By the end of 2009, those involved in Rick's life had begun to heal and move forward. The case remained a reminder of how quickly life can change and the importance of compassion and understanding in difficult times. This case is a stark reminder of how quickly a practical joke can spiral into tragedy. Rick's playful nature and Carly's desperate reaction led to a heartbreaking series of events, forever altering the lives of everyone involved. Today we'll be delving into a chilling case set in the upscale suburb of Johns Creek, Georgia, in late August 2020. Our story involves a seemingly perfect family, dark secrets, and a twisted plot for murder. It was a hot afternoon on August 28, 2020, when the peaceful suburb of Johns Creek, Georgia, was shaken by a gruesome discovery. At around 3:00 p.m., Susan Manchego, a close friend of the Frisch family, arrived at their home for a scheduled visit. Susan, a longtime resident of Johns Creek, had known the Frisch family for years and was often involved in community and church events with Anne Frisch. As Susan walked up the driveway, she noticed that the house seemed unusually quiet. She knocked on the front door, but got no response. Feeling a bit uneasy, she tried the door and found it unlocked. Calling out for Anne and Stephen, she stepped inside. The house was eerily silent, with no sounds of the usual family activity and no sign of anyone home. Her anxiety growing, Susan decided to check the basement, where Stephen often worked on his gardening projects. As she descended the stairs, she noticed a faint, strange smell that made her heart race. At the bottom of the stairs, Susan's eyes fell on a horrific scene. There on the cold concrete floor lay Stephen Frisch, lifeless and surrounded by a pool of blood. His head was battered, and a rope was tightly wound around his neck. Next to his body was the remote control for the cable box, covered in blood. Susan's initial reaction was one of shock and disbelief. She froze for a moment, unable to process the brutal sight before her. Gathering her wits, she quickly pulled out her phone and dialed 911. Her voice was shaky as she described the scene to the operator, struggling to keep her composure. Within minutes, the sound of sirens filled the air as police and emergency responders rushed to the Frisch residence. Susan, still in shock, waited outside, watching as the once peaceful home became the center of a major crime scene investigation. The discovery of Stephen's body marked the beginning of a complex and tragic case that would leave the community of Johns Creek reeling. Stephen Frisch was a 45-year-old husband and father, known for his quiet and reserved nature. He worked in software design and was highly regarded in his field for his meticulous attention to detail and innovative designs. Stephen and his family lived in Johns Creek, Georgia, an upscale suburb of Atlanta known for its friendly community and good schools. Their house, a charming two-story home, often had flowers blooming in the front yard, thanks to Stephen's love for gardening. He was passionate about his work and often spent late hours perfecting his designs. His colleagues admired him for his dedication and work ethic. Outside of work, Stephen enjoyed simple pleasures. He loved gardening and spent many weekends tending to his flowers and vegetables. He'd also enjoy playing with his two children, a 12-year-old son named Beamer and a 10-year-old daughter named Portia. Stephen's relationship with his wife, Anne, seemed picture-perfect to outsiders. They were active in their community and attended church regularly. Anne was known for organizing events and parties, often showcasing their seemingly happy family. However, behind closed doors, their marriage had its challenges. Friends and family described Stephen as kind, dependable, and somewhat introverted. He wasn't the type to seek the spotlight, preferring quiet moments with his family. Stephen's dream was to create a legacy through his architectural work and to provide a stable and loving home for his children. He often spoke about taking a family vacation to Disney World, a trip they had planned for later in the year before the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted their plans. In the days leading up to his death, Stephen had been working on a major project that he hoped would secure a significant promotion. He was excited about the future and looked forward to celebrating the completion of the project with his family. Despite the stresses of his job, Stephen always made time for his children, helping Beamer with his school science projects and reading bedtime stories to Portia. Stephen's sudden and violent death left his family and friends in shock. The community of Johns Creek mourned the loss of a man who was not only a skilled professional, but also a loving father and husband. Stephen Frisch's tragic end was a stark contrast to the peaceful life he had worked so hard to build. When the Johns Creek Police Department received Susan Manchego's frantic 911 call on August 28, 2020, they responded quickly. Detective Sheena Hayes, a seasoned investigator with over 20 years of experience, led the team. Known for her sharp instincts and methodical approach, Hayes was determined to get to the bottom of the case. The police arrived at the Frisch residence within minutes. The neighborhood was quiet, with neighbors peeking out from behind their curtains, shocked by the sudden commotion. The house was quickly cordoned off with yellow police tape, and the officers began their investigation. The basement where Stephen Frisch's body was found was a scene of horror. The concrete floor was stained with blood, and Stephen's body lay in the center, surrounded by gardening tools and supplies. The remote control for the cable box, covered in blood, was found near his head, indicating it had been used to bludgeon him. The rope around his neck was tightly wound, showing signs of a violent struggle. Detective Hayes and her team meticulously combed through the crime scene. They collected fingerprints from the remote control and nearby surfaces, hoping to find a match. DNA samples were taken from the rope and any other potential evidence. The team used luminol to detect traces of blood that might have been cleaned up, illuminating the extent of the violence in a bluish glow. They also photographed every angle of the scene, ensuring no detail was overlooked. Outside the house, a crowd began to gather. Local news crews from stations like WSBT arrived, their cameras rolling as they reported on the shocking murder in the typically quiet suburb. Reporters interviewed neighbors, who expressed their disbelief and sorrow over Stephen's death. Back inside, the investigation continued. Detective Hayes noticed that despite the brutal attack, there were no signs of forced entry, suggesting the killer was someone Stephen knew and trusted. The police questioned Susan Manchego, who found the body. Still in shock, she recounted her discovery, providing crucial details about the Frisch family's recent activities. The police also looked into Stephen's recent communications. They searched his phone, computer, and social media accounts, seeking clues that might point to a motive or suspect. Emails, text messages, and recent calls were scrutinized for any hint of trouble in Stephen's life. Detective Hayes and her team worked late into the night, piecing together the events leading up to the murder. The evidence collected at the scene painted a picture of a brutal personal attack. As the investigation progressed, the police began to build a list of potential suspects, starting with those closest to Stephen. The first suspect the police focused on was Anne Frisch, Stephen's wife. At 42, Anne was known for her charismatic and outgoing personality. She was often seen at local events, organizing community gatherings and church activities. To neighbors and friends, Anne seemed like the perfect wife and mother, always smiling and full of energy. However, the police knew that appearances could be deceiving. Detective Sheena Hayes began by interviewing Anne at the police station. Anne appeared distraught, her eyes red from crying. She explained that she had been out shopping at the local Whole Foods when the murder occurred. Anne presented her receipt and mentioned that she had bumped into a friend, Martha Green, who could verify her alibi. However, the police were not entirely convinced. They needed to investigate further. The police dug into Anne's background. They discovered that despite her public persona, she had been involved in a secret love affair with a man named Nick Bromley. This revelation added a new layer of complexity to the case. Could Anne's affair have led to Stephen's murder? Detective Hayes questioned Anne about her relationship with Nick. Anne admitted to the affair and said the sex was, quote, fabulous, but insisted that she had no reason to harm Stephen. She claimed that Stephen was a good husband and father and that their marriage, while sexually unfulfilling, was stable. Anne's demeanor during the interrogation was a mix of sadness and defensiveness. She seemed genuinely heartbroken over Stephen's death, but also wary of the police's suspicions. The police also examined Anne's financial records. They found that Stephen had a substantial life insurance policy, with Anne as the primary beneficiary. This discovery raised questions about a potential financial motive. Could Anne have wanted the insurance money to start a new life with Nick? To verify Anne's alibi, Detective Hayes spoke with Martha Green. Martha confirmed that she had seen Anne at Whole Foods around the time of the murder. However, the timeline was tight, and there was still a possibility that Anne could have been involved. The police also checked surveillance footage from the store, which showed Anne shopping, but it did not conclusively prove her innocence. Despite Anne's cooperation, the evidence against her began to mount. Her affair with Nick and the potential financial motive made her a prime suspect. The police continued to monitor her closely, looking for any signs of further deception. As the investigation progressed, Anne's calm and composed exterior began to crack. She became increasingly anxious, knowing that the police were scrutinizing her at every move. The once vibrant and confident woman now appeared haunted by the shadows of her secrets. Nick Bromley, the second suspect, was Anne Frisch's lover. At 38, Nick was known for his charm and fitness. He worked as a personal trainer at a local gym and was popular among his clients. Nick had a reputation as a ladies' man and was often seen driving his sleek BMW around Johns Creek. Detective Sheena Hayes brought Nick in for questioning. When he arrived at the police station, Nick appeared confident and relaxed. He denied any involvement in Stephen's murder and claimed he was at the gym during the time of the crime. He even provided the names of several clients who could verify his alibi. The police decided to dig deeper into Nick's background. They discovered that Nick had a history of manipulative behavior. He had been involved in several tumultuous relationships in the past, some of which ended badly. This information made the police suspicious. Could Nick's relationship with Anne have driven him to murder? Detective Hayes questioned Nick about his affair with Anne. Nick admitted to the relationship, but insisted that he had no reason to harm Stephen. He claimed that Anne had told him she was unhappy in her marriage, but never mentioned wanting to harm her husband. Nick's demeanor during the interrogation was calm, but there was an undercurrent of arrogance in his responses. The police also looked into Nick's financial records. They found that he was struggling with debt due to living a luxurious lifestyle on only a $50,000 a year salary. This raised the possibility that Nick might have seen Stephen's life insurance money as a way out of his financial troubles. Nick, however, denied any knowledge of the insurance policy. To verify Nick's alibi, Detective Hayes spoke with his clients. Most confirmed that Nick was indeed at the gym, but there was a small window of time unaccounted for. The police checked the gym's surveillance footage, which showed Nick training clients, but there were gaps in the timeline that left room for doubt. As the investigation continued, Nick's confident exterior began to falter. He became more defensive, especially when the police confronted him with the possibility of a financial motive. The tension was palpable as Detective Hayes pressed Nick for more details about his relationship with Anne and his activities on the day of the murder. Despite Nick's protests of innocence, the police remained suspicious. His manipulative history, financial troubles, and affair with Anne painted a troubling picture. The investigation into Nick Bromley was far from over, and Detective Hayes knew that uncovering the truth would require careful and persistent probing. On August 30, 2020, at 2:00 p.m., under a sweltering summer sun, the Johns Creek Police Department uncovered a significant piece of new evidence in the murder investigation of Stephen Frisch. Detective Sheena Hayes received a call from a neighbor and friend of Anne's, Ashley Martin, who reported finding a blood-stained glove in her backyard, which was near to the Frisch residence. Detective Hayes and her team arrived at Ashley's house quickly. Ashley had been out gardening when she noticed the glove partially hidden under a bush. His curiosity turned to alarm when he saw the blood. Calmly, he called the police, knowing this could be crucial evidence. The police collected the glove and immediately sent it to the forensics lab for DNA analysis. Detective Hayes hoped this new evidence would provide a breakthrough in the case. Meanwhile, the team continued to search the area for any other items that might have been discarded by the killer. As the forensics team worked on the glove, Detective Hayes reviewed the case files, looking for connections between the suspects and the new evidence. The DNA results came back later that evening. The blood on the glove matched Stephen Frisch, and inside the glove, they found DNA from Anne Frisch. This discovery sent shockwaves through the investigation. Until now, Anne's alibi had seemed solid, with both her friend Martha Green and the surveillance footage from Whole Foods supporting her story. However, the presence of her DNA on the glove suggested otherwise. Detective Hayes called Anne back for further questioning. This time, Anne appeared more nervous. When confronted with the evidence, Anne's composure began to crumble. She claimed she had no idea how her DNA could be on the glove and suggested that someone was trying to frame her. Her voice wavered, and she seemed less confident than before. The police also checked Nick Bromley's alibi again, scrutinizing the gym's surveillance footage more closely. They discovered that during the unaccounted time, Nick had left the gym briefly, which aligned with the window of opportunity for the murder. With the new evidence pointing towards Anne and potential complicity from Nick, the police intensified their investigation. They revisited the financial records and communications between Anne and Nick, uncovering more incriminating details. Detective Hayes and her team realized they were closer to solving the case, but they needed to connect all the dots. The glove discovery added a crucial piece to the puzzle, suggesting that the murder was premeditated and that both Anne and Nick had roles in the crime. The police knew they had to act fast to gather more evidence and bring the culprits to justice. The third suspect in the investigation was Ashley Martin, a 35-year-old close to Stephen Frisch. Ashley worked with Stephen on various projects and was known for her intelligence and supportive nature. She had a reputation for being trustworthy and had often been a confidant for Stephen, especially during his marital problems. Rumors circulated that Ashley had feelings for Stephen, but she never acted on them. On August 31, 2020, Detective Sheena Hayes called Ashley in for questioning. Ashley arrived at the police station looking composed but nervous. She recounted her professional relationship with Stephen, emphasizing their close working relationship and mutual respect. When asked about her feelings for Stephen, Ashley admitted she cared deeply for him, but insisted she would never harm him. During the interrogation, Ashley revealed a shocking secret. She was the birth mother of Stephen and Anne's 2 children. Anne was infertile, and Ashley had agreed to bear the children for them. Ashley explained that she had sex with Stephen while Anne watched, as part of their arrangement. She mentioned that the marriage between Stephen and Anne was never the same after that, and tensions had been high. Detective Hayes found Ashley's confession both surprising and intriguing. It added another layer to the complex relationship between Stephen and Anne. However, Ashley's motives were still unclear. Could her involvement in the family have driven her to murder Stephen? The police examined Ashley's alibi for the day of the murder. She claimed to have been at her office, working late on a project. The police verified her alibi by checking with her colleagues and reviewing security footage from her office building. Everything checked out, and there was no evidence placing her at the crime scene. Despite her alibi, the police continued to scrutinize Ashley's actions and communications. They reviewed her phone records and emails, looking for any signs of a conspiracy with Anne or Nick. They found several messages between Ashley and Stephen, discussing their children and work, but nothing that suggested a plot to kill him. As the investigation into Ashley progressed, the police began to see her more as a tragic figure caught in a complicated web of relationships rather than a suspect. She had no financial motive and no apparent reason to harm Stephen. Her cooperation with the police and her verified alibi gradually shifted the focus away from her. Detective Hayes and her team continued to keep Ashley under observation, but redirected their main efforts back to Anne and Nick, whose motives and actions seemed increasingly suspicious. The investigation was drawing closer to a conclusion, with each piece of evidence bringing them nearer to the truth. On September 2, 2020, the Johns Creek Police Department finally identified the murderer. Anne Frisch, Stephen's wife, was the primary suspect. Anne was 42 years old, known for her outgoing and charismatic personality. She was a social butterfly, organizing community events and church gatherings. However, beneath her charming exterior, Anne harbored dark secrets. Detective Sheena Hayes pieced together the evidence: the bloody glove with Anne's DNA, her affair with Nick Bromley, and the substantial life insurance policy. Anne and Nick had planned to kill Stephen and collect the insurance money to start a new life together. They intended to stage the murder as a burglary gone wrong, diverting suspicion from themselves. The police discovered that Anne had manipulated Nick into believing Stephen was abusive, sending Nick constant texts detailing how Stephen was torturing her with knives and fire. This twisted story convinced Nick to participate in the murder. Anne even made Nick sign a love pact, sealed with blood and other bodily fluids, to ensure his loyalty. The breakthrough came during Nick's second interrogation. Under pressure, Nick confessed that Anne had also planned to kill him after collecting the insurance money, fearing he would eventually turn on her. This shocking revelation painted Anne as a cold-blooded manipulator willing to eliminate anyone who stood in her way. On the morning of September 2, Detective Hayes and her team moved to arrest Anne. They arrived at the Frisch residence at 8 o'clock a.m. Anne was in the kitchen, preparing breakfast for her children. When the police entered, Anne seemed surprised but quickly masked her emotions. As the officers handcuffed her, Anne protested her innocence, claiming she was being framed. The neighbors watched in shock as Anne was led to the police car. The news spread quickly through Johns Creek, and the community was stunned by the revelations. Stephen's family, including his children, Beamer and Portia, were devastated. They couldn't comprehend how their mother could commit such a heinous act. In the days following Anne's arrest, Stephen's family and friends struggled to come to terms with the betrayal and loss. They were grateful that justice was being served, but heartbroken by the truth. Anne's arrest marked a significant milestone in the investigation, but it also left a trail of emotional wreckage. The once vibrant Frisch household was now a scene of sorrow and confusion. Detective Hayes knew the case was far from over, as the trial would bring more revelations and challenges. However, the arrest of Anne Frisch was a crucial step toward justice for Stephen. The trial of Anne Frisch began on November 1, 2020, and drew significant attention from both the media and the local community. The prosecution, led by Assistant District Attorney Bronco Johnson, a 45-year-old with a reputation for being tough and meticulous, argued that Anne had meticulously planned the murder of her husband, Stephen Frisch, to collect the life insurance money and start a new life with her lover, Nick Bromley. Johnson presented a compelling case, detailing the evidence: the bloody glove with Anne's DNA, the life insurance policy, and Nick's confession about Anne's manipulation. He painted Anne as a cold-blooded killer who had not only planned Stephen's murder but had also intended to kill Nick to eliminate any loose ends. The defense attorney, Sarah Mintelli, a 38-year-old known for her sharp intellect and tenacity, argued that Anne was innocent and had been framed. She claimed that Nick Bromley was the real mastermind and that Anne had been manipulated by him. Mintelli highlighted Anne's community involvement and painted her as a loving mother who would never harm her husband. Throughout the trial, the courtroom was tense. Stephen's family and friends filled the seats, their faces a mix of anger and sorrow. They listened intently as witnesses testified and evidence was presented. The emotional toll on Stephen's children was evident as they watched their mother stand trial for their father's murder. Nick Bromley testified for the prosecution, detailing his affair with Anne and the plan to kill Stephen. His testimony was damning and left little doubt about Anne's involvement. The defense tried to discredit Nick, portraying him as a manipulative liar, but his detailed account and the corroborating evidence made a strong impact on the jury. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury reached a verdict on December 15, 2020. Anne Frisch was found guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom erupted with emotion as the verdict was read. Stephen's family embraced, tears streaming down their faces, while Anne sat motionless, her expression a mix of shock and resignation. The judge sentenced Anne to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentence was seen as a fitting punishment for the brutal and calculated nature of the crime. Anne's reaction to the sentencing was one of quiet acceptance. She did not display any outward emotion. The verdict brought a sense of closure to Stephen's family and friends. They felt justice had been served, but the pain of losing Stephen would remain with them forever. The trial's outcome also had a profound effect on the community of Johns Creek, reminding them of the darkness that can lurk behind closed doors. After Anne Frisch was sentenced to life in prison, the lives of everyone involved in the case began to change dramatically. The aftermath of the trial left a deep impact on Stephen Frisch's family, the local community, and even those who had been suspects in the case. Stephen's children, Portia and Beamer, faced a difficult adjustment. They lost their father and were now growing up without their mother, who was serving a like sentence. Stephen's sister, Rachel, stepped in to care for the children. Rachel, who lived in nearby Alpharetta, took on the responsibility of raising them. The transition was challenging, but Rachel tried to provide a stable and loving environment. Local charities, such as the North Fulton Community Charities, offered support to help the children adjust to their new life. Nick Bromley, who had testified against Anne, faced his own consequences. Although he had not been charged with the murder, the revelation of his involvement in the affair damaged his reputation and business. Clients at his gym, Fitness Together, distanced themselves from him. Nick's once thriving personal training business suffered as a result of the scandal. Ashley Martin, who had been a suspect but later cleared, also faced challenges. Although she had been exonerated, the media attention and rumors had taken a toll on her personal and professional life. Ashley chose to leave her job and moved to a new city to start fresh. She took a position at a new company and sought counseling to help her cope with the stress and public scrutiny. Detective Sheena Hayes, who led the investigation, continued her work with the Johns Creek Police Department. The case was a significant part of her career, and she used her experience to help solve other complex cases. Her commitment to justice remained strong, and she often reflected on the case's impact on her life and career. In the end, while justice had been served for Stephen Frisch, the ripples of his murder and the ensuing trial affected many lives. The community slowly healed, but the memory of Stephen and the lessons learned from the case remained a part of their lives. The tragic murder of Stephen Frisch uncovered a web of deceit and manipulation. In a seemingly perfect community, dark secrets led to a brutal crime, forever altering the lives of those involved. Bobby Nurtak, aged 52, was an ambitious and driven real estate developer. Known for his charismatic personality and charming demeanor, he built a successful career constructing McMansions in the desert north of Los Angeles. Bobby's life was filled with contradictions. On one hand, he was a successful businessman, admired by many for his achievements. On the other hand, he was a lonely soul, seeking solace in the vast desert landscape that surrounded his property. Despite his many professional accomplishments, Bobby's personal life was marked by tumultuous relationships and betrayals. Living like a recluse in his multi-million-dollar ranch, Bobby yearned for stability and genuine connections. He often sought solace in the vast expanse of the Mojave Desert, finding peace in the solitude it offered. His sprawling estate, nestled amidst the arid landscape, was a testament to his wealth and influence. In November of 2002, Bobby's life took a tragic turn. Rumors swirled in the tight-knit community of Lancaster, with whispers of infidelity, financial troubles, and resentful business partners. Bobby's relationships were a constant source of turmoil. He and his ex-wife, Eliza, had just finished their bitter divorce proceedings. The local newspaper, the Lancaster Gazette, published a series of articles highlighting his rise to prominence and the controversies that surrounded him. We will dive deeper into the events leading up to Bobby's murder, exploring the motives and suspects involved. Stay tuned as we uncover the truth behind this tragic crime. On a fateful day in November 2002, tragedy struck the quiet town of Lancaster, California. The lifeless body of Bobby Nurtak, a prominent real estate developer, was found in the stable of his multi-million-dollar ranch. The news of his untimely demise sent shockwaves through the community, leaving friends and family in a state of disbelief. The discovery of Bobby Nurtek's body was made by his close friend, Jason Harris Packard, who had come to visit him at his sprawling ranch. As Jason entered the stable, he was met with a scene of horror. Bobby lay motionless on the ground, a single bullet wound piercing his heart. The silence that filled the air was deafening, as if the world had come to a standstill. Immediately overcome with grief, Jason frantically dialed 911, desperately hoping that help would arrive in time. The authorities were alerted, and within minutes, the tranquil ranch was transformed into a crime scene. Police cars lined the driveway, their flashing lights illuminating the darkness that had descended upon the once serene landscape. News of the murder quickly spread, capturing the attention of the local media. Television crews from KTLA and KCBS set up their cameras, reporting live from the scene. As investigators meticulously combed through the evidence, the community was left grappling with shock and fear. How could such a tragedy befall someone like Bobby Nurtek, a man who had seemingly achieved the American dream? Rumors and speculation ran rampant, as whispers of jealousy, greed, and betrayal filled the air. The days that followed were filled with interviews, interrogations, and painstaking analysis of every piece of evidence. The police were determined to bring the perpetrator to justice, to provide closure for Bobby's loved ones, and restore a sense of security to the community. In the aftermath of the shocking murder of Bobby Nurtek, the police wasted no time in their pursuit of justice. Led by the determined detective Laura Cordoba-Utica, the investigation team arrived at the crime scene with a sense of urgency. The once pristine and sprawling ranch, nestled in the desert north of Los Angeles, now stood as a haunting backdrop to the heinous crime that had taken place. As the investigators entered the property, they were met with a scene of devastation and despair. Bloodstains, like dark and ominous brushstrokes, painted a grim picture of the violence that had unfolded. Each droplet of blood told a story of the struggle that Bobby Nurtek had endured in his final moments. The investigators meticulously documented every detail, ensuring that no piece of evidence went unnoticed. The police team methodically combed through the ranch, searching for any clues that could lead them to the identity of the killer. They carefully examined every room, every nook and cranny, in their quest for the truth. The air was thick with tension as they meticulously collected fingerprints, DNA samples, and any other potential evidence that could help solve the case. Outside the ranch, the investigators discovered a gun in a nearby gully. The weapon, a cold and deadly instrument, held the key to unlocking the mystery behind Bobby Nurtek's untimely demise. It was carefully bagged and tagged, ready to be sent to the forensic lab for analysis. As the investigation unfolded, the police reached out to the media for assistance. News outlets, such as the local Lancaster Gazette and the Los Angeles Times, reported on the case, urging anyone with information to come forward. The community was gripped with fear and curiosity, eager to see justice served for the beloved real estate developer. The investigation into the murder of Bobby Nurtek took a dramatic turn when the focus shifted to his ex-wife, Eliza Nurtek. Eliza, age 38, was a marketing consultant in the San Fernando Valley and had a history of manipulative behavior. The police, armed with this information, began to dig deeper into her life, hoping to uncover any potential motive for the heinous crime. Eliza and Bobby's marriage was far from picture-perfect. Their tumultuous, decade-long relationship was marred by accusations of infidelity and betrayal. Bobby had claimed that Eliza had cheated on him numerous times, leaving him feeling hurt and betrayed. These allegations were further compounded by Eliza's manipulative nature, which Bobby had often pointed out. The police believed that these factors could have driven Eliza to commit such a heinous act. Detective Laura Cordoba-Utica, the lead investigator on the case, wasted no time in interrogating Eliza. The questioning took place in a small, dimly lit room, with the tension palpable in the air. Eliza, dressed in a stylish pantsuit, maintained her composure as she vehemently denied any involvement in Bobby's murder. In an unexpected twist, Eliza retaliated by accusing Bobby of infidelity. She claimed that he had cheated on her multiple times with both men and women. These accusations added fuel to the already intense investigation, as the police now had to consider the possibility of a crime of passion. The media quickly caught wind of this sensational revelation, and blog posts by true crime fanatics began to speculate on the motives behind the murder. As the investigation continued, the police delved into Eliza's background. They discovered that she had a penchant for manipulation and had a reputation for being cunning. Eliza's clients, who had worked with her in the past, spoke of her ability to twist situations to her advantage and manipulate those around her. These insights into Eliza's character only deepened the suspicion surrounding her involvement in Bobby's murder. The investigation into the murder of Bobby Nurtek was far from over, and the police were determined to uncover the truth. As they sifted through the evidence and interviewed witnesses, they hoped to find the missing pieces that would lead them to the killer. The investigation into the murder of Bobby Nurtek took an unexpected turn when the police turned their attention to Jason Harris Packard, Bobby's business partner and close friend. Jason, aged 48, was known for his ambitious nature and ruthless approach to business. He and Bobby had a complicated relationship, marked by both friendship and conflict. Jason's involvement in the murder investigation raised eyebrows due to his proximity to the victim. Rumors circulated that they were not only business partners, but also had a close personal relationship, so close that they even slept together in the same bed. Speculations about their alleged sexual involvement added another layer of complexity to the case. The police interrogated Jason, hoping to uncover any possible motive for his involvement in the crime. They questioned him about his financial disputes with Bobby and the nature of their relationship. Jason, torn between grief and suspicion, vehemently denied any participation in a sexual relationship with Bobby or in the murder. To gather more information, the investigators delved into Jason's background. They discovered that he had a reputation for being cutthroat in his business dealings, always striving for financial success. They also found evidence of previous clashes between Jason and Bobby over financial matters, further fueling their suspicions. The police meticulously examined Jason's alibi for the night of the murder. They interviewed his friends, colleagues, and neighbors, trying to establish his whereabouts. They searched for any inconsistencies or witnesses who could provide crucial information. Despite the mounting evidence against Jason, the investigation remained ongoing. The police were determined to leave no stone unturned in their pursuit of the truth. They continued to gather witness statements, analyze forensic evidence, and explore alternative theories. In the riveting investigation into the murder of Bobby Nurtek, shocking revelations have come to light that expose a web of deceit and corruption. As the police delved deeper into his life, they uncovered a sinister truth about his real estate dealings and the subpar materials used in his McMansions. These revelations have sent shockwaves through the community of Lancaster, California, where the tragic events unfolded in November of 2002. During the investigation, a devastating incident occurred that shed light on the true nature of Bobby Nurtek's real estate empire. The McPherson family, residents of one of the subdivisions he built, tragically lost their lives when the walls of their home collapsed while they slept. This horrifying event prompted the police to dig deeper into Bobby's business practices and construction methods. It was soon revealed that Bobby's real estate dealings were far from legitimate. The investigation uncovered a trail of dirty money flowing through his business transactions, raising suspicions of money laundering. This shocking revelation left the community in disbelief, as Bobby had been seen as a successful and respected figure in the world of real estate. Furthermore, it was discovered that the McMansions Bobby constructed were built using substandard materials. The investigation revealed that corners had been cut, compromising the safety and integrity of these homes. The use of inferior materials put the lives of the residents at risk, as evidenced by the tragic fate of the McPherson family. The community was left reeling from the realization that their dream homes were built on a foundation of deception. As news of these revelations spread, media outlets picked up the story, further amplifying the shock and outrage. Headlines blared with phrases like, "Real estate tycoon's dark secrets exposed," and "Lancaster scandal rocks community." The scandal surrounding Bobby Nurtek's murder had transformed into a larger narrative of corruption and betrayal. The police, faced with this new evidence, expanded their investigation to include not only the murder, but also the financial crimes and building code violations committed by Bobby Nurtek. The community demanded justice for the lives lost and the deception that had been perpetrated on them. The investigation took an unexpected turn when the police uncovered the lifeless body of Lucy Colligard, Bobby Nurtek's girlfriend, in her small apartment in Lancaster, California. Lucy, a struggling actress with dreams of making it big in Hollywood, had a troubled past filled with failed relationships and a history of substance abuse. The police, led by Detective Laura Cordobiutica, immediately began piecing together the events leading up to Lucy's death. They meticulously combed through her apartment, searching for any clues that could shed light on what happened. The walls were adorned with posters of famous actors and actresses, a testament to Lucy's aspirations. In her bedroom, they found an open bottle of prescription pills and empty beer cans scattered on the floor. It was clear that Lucy had been struggling with her demons, seeking solace in substances that ultimately led to her demise. As the investigation continued, the police interviewed Lucy's friends and acquaintances, trying to unravel the complex web of relationships in her life. One friend, Delia Masterson, a fellow struggling actress, recalled a conversation she had with Lucy just days before her death. Lucy had confided in Delia about her tumultuous relationship with Bobby Nurtek, expressing her frustration and unhappiness. Delia mentioned that Lucy had been receiving threatening messages from an unknown person, adding to her already fragile state of mind. The police obtained Lucy's phone records and discovered a series of text messages from an unknown number. The messages were filled with threats and insults, further adding to the mystery surrounding her death. Detective Cordobiutica reached out to the phone company, hoping to trace the origin of the messages. As the investigation into Lucy Colligard's death continued, the police were faced with a myriad of possibilities. Was Lucy's death the result of her own demons and struggles with substance abuse? Or was there someone else involved, someone who had a motive to silence her forever? Only time would tell as Detective Cordobiutica and her team worked tirelessly to uncover the truth behind this tragic event. After weeks of tireless investigation, the truth behind the murder of Bobby Nurtek finally came to light. It was Eliza Nurtek, Bobby's ex-wife, who orchestrated a chilling plot to eliminate him and his allies. Motivated by a deep-seated anger and resentment towards Bobby, Eliza meticulously planned a murder that would ensure he paid for his past transgressions. The police, led by Detective Laura Cordobiutica, painstakingly pieced together the puzzle that revealed Eliza's sinister intentions. Through extensive interviews, forensic analysis, and the examination of various pieces of evidence, they were able to uncover the truth. Eliza's motive for the murder stemmed from Bobby's infidelity and betrayal during their tumultuous, decade-long marriage. She harbored a deep-seated anger towards him, feeling that he had cheated on her multiple times with both men and women. This betrayal fueled her desire for revenge, leading her down a dark and dangerous path. To carry out her plan, Eliza meticulously planned the murder, leaving no detail to chance. She carefully selected the murder weapon, a gun, and executed the crime with cold precision. After shooting Bobby, she staged the crime scene to make it appear as if someone else was responsible. But that was not all. She also murdered his girlfriend, Lucy Colligard, and then planted evidence to make it look like she had died from an overdose. The police, however, were not easily deceived. Through their diligent investigation, they uncovered inconsistencies in Eliza's alibi and discovered the true nature of her relationship with Bobby. They also found evidence linking her to the murder weapon in the staged crime scene. Eliza's web of lies began to unravel, and the truth slowly emerged. On a fateful day in December of 2002, just before Christmas, the police moved swiftly to apprehend Eliza. They arrested her, leaving her shocked and surprised by the swift hand of justice. The community, once gripped by fear and uncertainty, could finally breathe a sigh of relief knowing that the person responsible for these heinous crimes was behind bars. In the aftermath of this tragic event, the community of Lancaster, California was left reeling. The shocking nature of the crimes and the betrayal of trust had a profound impact on the residents. The media frenzy surrounding the case only added to the sense of unease and disbelief. The trial of Eliza Nurtek, the prime suspect in the murder of Bobby Nurtek and Lucy Colligard, was a riveting spectacle. The courtroom was filled with tension as the prosecution and defense presented their cases, each side vying for justice to be served. Prosecutor A.E. Shin Choi, a seasoned legal expert, meticulously built a compelling case against Eliza. With a firm voice and unwavering determination, she presented evidence that painted Eliza as a vengeful and calculating murderer. The prosecution called upon witnesses who testified to Eliza's history of manipulation and deceit, revealing a web of lies that she had spun around Bobby and Lucy. Defense attorney Lena Jacobs-Carcel, a skilled and tenacious lawyer, fought tooth and nail to create reasonable doubt in the minds of the jurors. She argued that the evidence against Eliza was circumstantial and that there were other possible suspects who could have committed the crimes. Jacobs-Carcel called upon character witnesses who spoke highly of Eliza's demeanor and disputed the prosecution's claims. The trial was not without its emotional moments. The victims' families, still grieving the loss of their loved ones, sat in the courtroom, their eyes filled with a mix of hope and despair. They listened intently to every word spoken, desperate for justice to be served. After weeks of deliberation, the jury finally reached a verdict. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the foreperson stood up and pronounced Eliza Nurtek guilty on all charges. Gasps filled the room, and the victims' families broke into tears, their long-awaited justice finally realized. Eliza Nurtek was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Some believed that this punishment was too lenient given the heinous nature of her crimes. Others felt that justice had been served and that Eliza would spend the rest of her days behind bars, paying for the lives she had taken. In the aftermath of the trial, the lives of all those involved were forever changed. Eliza Nurtek, now confined to a prison cell, had to face the consequences of her actions. She was sent to the infamous San Quentin State Prison, known for housing some of the most dangerous criminals in California. Inside the prison walls, Eliza had to adapt to a strict routine, wearing an orange jumpsuit and spending most of her days in a small cell. She was cut off from the outside world, with limited access to phone calls and visits from loved ones. Meanwhile, Jason Harris Packard, burdened by guilt and haunted by the memories of the past, decided to make a fresh start. He moved away and settled in Bakersfield, where he opened a small bakery. With the help of his mother's secret recipes, Jason baked delicious pastries and bread, bringing joy to the locals. His bakery, named Sweet Delights, quickly gained popularity. As for the community, they slowly moved on from the scandal that had captivated them. However, the memory of Bobby Nurtek's murder would forever linger in their minds, serving as a reminder of the fragility of life and the consequences of one's choices. In the end, the trial brought closure to a dark chapter in the community's history. Those scars remained. The community found solace in the fact that justice had been served. They vowed to learn from the tragedy and to strive for a safer and more compassionate society. As we conclude this episode of True Crime Case Files, we reflect on the chilling tale of Nurtek's. In the small town of Lancaster, California, ambition, betrayal, and revenge collided, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. This story serves as a reminder that even in the pursuit of success, one must tread carefully, for the consequences of our actions can be far-reaching and devastating. Callie Carter was 34 years old and worked as an assistant district attorney in Galveston County, Texas. She was well known in her town for being very good at her job, especially when it came to fighting crime involving the many cults that operated in the area. Many people in Galveston admired her hard work and dedication. Callie was not just about her job. She was also a big part of the community. She often organized charity events to help people in need and loved participating in the town's festivals, like the annual Galveston Island Food and Wine Festival. Callie lived in a cozy house on a quiet street in Galveston. She was married to James Carter, though their relationship had become strained. Despite this, she remained hopeful and focused on her future. She had big dreams for her career and wanted to make Galveston a safer place for everyone. Callie attended the University of Texas at Austin for her law degree, where she graduated with honors. Her passion for law and justice was evident from a young age, often talking about her dreams of someday becoming the judge when she was just 3 years old. Her life was full of promise and potential, and she had a bright future ahead of her. Callie's family was very important to her. She had a close relationship with her parents, Linda and Robert Jenkins, who lived nearby in Houston. She also had an older brother, Tim, a successful judge in Montana who often visited with his wife and kids. Callie's friends described her as optimistic and full of energy. She was always smiling and had a positive outlook on life, even when things were tough. In the days before her death, Callie was busy preparing for a big case against a new cult that had begun attracting members around Galveston Beach. She spent long hours at the office, but still made time to help organize a local charity event to support homeless shelters. She was excited about the future and had plans to take a short vacation with her family after the trial. Callie's untimely death left a void in the community and among those who loved her. Her dedication to her work and her caring nature made her a beloved figure in Galveston. On the morning of June 12, 2004, Galveston was waking up to a warm, sunny day. The town was quiet, with people going about their usual routines. Emily Ruiz, a close friend and neighbor of Callie Carter, was worried. Callie had missed their morning jogs, something she never did. Emily decided to check on her, hoping everything was okay. Emily walked to Callie's house, which was just a few houses down the street. She knocked on the door but got no answer. Growing more concerned, Emily tried the door and found it unlocked. She stepped inside, calling out for Callie. As she walked into the living room, she was met with a horrifying sight. Callie was lying on the floor in a pool of blood. She had been stabbed multiple times, and there were strange marks all over her body. Emily's heart raced as she pulled out her cell phone and dialed 911. Her voice trembled as she spoke to the operator.
911, what's your emergency?
It's my friend, Callie Carter. She's on the floor. There's blood everywhere. I think she's dead. Please, send help.
The 911 operator tried to calm Emily down while dispatching emergency services to the scene. Emily, still in shock, could hardly believe what she was seeing. She stayed on the phone with the operator, who asked her to wait outside until the police arrived. Police and emergency medical services arrived quickly at the scene. They found Emily outside, still in tears and clearly traumatized. The police immediately began to assess the scene and secure the perimeter. They called in forensics experts to help gather evidence. As news of the murder spread through Galveston, the community was in shock. Callie Carter was a well-known and respected figure, and her violent death left everyone reeling. The small town known for its beach and pier was suddenly the center of a major crime investigation. The police arrived at Callie Carter's house quickly after Emily Ruiz's 911 call on the morning of June 12, 2004. It was a sunny day in Galveston, Texas, but the scene inside the house was grim. Detective Sarah Jenkins and Officer Mark Davis led the investigation. Known for their attention to detail, they knew this was going to be a tough case. Detective Jenkins, a cousin of Callie and a seasoned investigator with a calm demeanor, took charge immediately. She directed the officers to secure the area and keep onlookers away. Officer Davis, who was younger and eager, followed her lead, making sure everything was handled by the book. The crime scene in Callie's living room was chaotic. Blood was splattered on the walls and furniture, showing signs of a violent struggle. Callie's body lay in the middle of the room, with multiple stab wounds and strange marks on her skin. The letter Z had been branded in several places on her body, adding a disturbing element to the scene. Forensics experts arrived and began their work. They used luminol to check for hidden blood traces, revealing more about the brutal attack. They dusted for fingerprints, collected hair and fiber samples, and carefully photographed the entire area. The forensics team worked methodically, knowing that every piece of evidence could be crucial. Detective Jenkins noticed a broken vase and some scattered papers, which suggested a fight had taken place. She pointed these out to Officer Davis, who made detailed notes. They also found a bloody knife in the kitchen sink, which was quickly bagged as evidence. While Jenkins and Davis were busy inside, officers canvassed the neighborhood, talking to anyone who might have seen or heard something unusual. A few neighbors reported hearing loud noises the night before, but no one had called the police. As the investigation continued, Jenkins and Davis discussed possible motives. They knew Callie was working on prosecuting a strange cult that had been attracting hundreds of converts in the Galveston area. The branding with the letter Z seemed like a possible link to the cult. Detective Jenkins also remembered that Callie's husband, James Carter, had a troubled past and a rocky relationship with Callie. They decided to question him as soon as possible. The detectives knew they had to consider all possibilities and leave no stone unturned. James Carter, 36, was the first suspect in the investigation. He was Callie's husband, and their relationship had been increasingly rocky. James was known around Galveston as a lazy, unemployed man, very different from his successful wife. People often saw him arguing with Callie in public. James had a history of cheating and had been acting strangely in the weeks before Callie's murder. The police brought James in for questioning on the afternoon of June 12, 2004. Detective Sarah Jenkins and Officer Mark Davis conducted the interrogation. James appeared nervous and restless, shifting in his seat and avoiding eye contact.
Where were you last night?
I was home, watching Jay Leno in the Reagan funeral.
Can anyone confirm that?
No, not really. Callie went to bed early. I was alone.
Detective Jenkins took note of his inconsistent alibi. She knew they needed more to go on, so she continued to probe.
We found a bloody knife in your kitchen sink. How do you explain that?
I don't know. I didn't touch no knife.
As the questioning continued, James's story seemed to fall apart. He couldn't provide a clear timeline of his actions the night Callie was murdered. His behavior became more erratic, and he started to sweat.
James, we know you'd been having an affair with a woman named Maureen. Did Callie find out about her?
She knew. But that ain't mean I killed her.
Throughout the interrogation, James's responses were inconsistent and unconvincing. Detective Jenkins decided to take a break and regroup. They needed to verify his alibi and gather more evidence before they could move forward. The police also searched James's personal belongings and found troubling evidence. There were sexually explicit letters from several women. They also found a hidden stash of $3,000, raising more questions about James' activities. As the day went on, it became clear that James Carter was hiding something. The detectives knew they had to keep digging to uncover the truth. They decided to question Maureen next, hoping to find more links between her and James. Galveston was buzzing with rumors about the case. Everyone was eager for answers, and the police were determined to provide them. They worked tirelessly, knowing that every detail could bring them closer to solving the murder of Callie Carter. The second suspect in the investigation was Maureen Zaftrapines, 56, the secretive leader of Xenon philosophy, a new cult that had been quickly gaining popularity around Galveston. The teachings of the group were based on the 1999 Disney Channel original movie Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century.
Hello, I am Maureen Zaftrapines, agent of Lady Xenon Carr. Today I invite you to explore Xenon philosophy, a futuristic vision, and a prophecy of humanity's evolution towards cosmic enlightenment. Through chanting of Lord Protozo's sacred lyrics, we attune our souls to the cosmic frequencies, preparing ourselves for the journey towards higher realms of existence. Our sacred branding of the letter Z symbolizes our commitment to Xenon philosophy as we embark on the path of spiritual enlightenment. We are not just individuals, but a cosmic community united by our shared vision. As we journey towards the stars, let us embrace the teachings of the Xenon philosophy, for within its wisdom lies the key to unlocking the mysteries of the universe and the boundless potential of our souls. May the light of Lady Xenon guide us on our cosmic voyage. Cetus Lupitus.
The group believed that the futuristic vision presented in the movie, known to members as Xenon philosophy, was a prophetic glimpse into humanity's destiny, and that a character in the movie, Protozo, a rock star, was a prophet whose lyrics contained hidden messages and spiritual truths. Members considered his
songs to be sacred texts, often reciting and analyzing them for guidance. They believed that through spiritual purity and adherence to their teachings, members would travel to the space station featured in the movie. More importantly, the group considered the letter Z, short for Xenon, to be a holy symbol representing the ultimate spiritual journey. Members believed that the Z had protective and purifying powers and often used it in rituals and branding. Initiation involved a branding ceremony, where new members received a Z mark. This, combined with the fact that Callie Carter had been preparing to prosecute the cult for stockpiling weapons, made Maureen a key person of interest. Detective Sarah Jenkins and Officer Mark Davis brought Maureen in for questioning on June 13, 2004. Maureen arrived at the station dressed in 5 to 11 tactical wear. Her usual calm and composed demeanor was deeply unsettling. When asked about her whereabouts the night Callie was murdered, Maureen claimed she was at the group's headquarters leading their evening meditation. She insisted that hundreds of followers could confirm her alibi. The detectives knew they needed to verify this, but continued to press her about her relationship with Callie and the prosecution case. Maureen maintained that she and Callie had no personal quarrel, and that she was simply doing her job as Callie was doing hers. Despite her calm exterior, the detectives sensed Maureen was hiding something. They questioned her about her connection with James Carter, noting how he admitted to a sexual relationship with E. Maureen admitted to having spoken with James a few times but denied any romantic involvement. The detectives presented Maureen with letters found in James' belongings that suggested a deeper connection between them. Maureen dismissed the letters, stating that she wrote to thousands of prospective members and implying that the letters meant nothing. As the interrogation continued, Maureen's responses remained measured and deliberate. She never lost her composure, even when the detectives brought up the brandings of the letter Z found on Callie's body, a symbol associated with Zen and philosophy. Maureen brushed off the connection, stating that many things start with the letter Z, and it did not implicate her or her followers. The detectives ended the interrogation, planning to verify her alibi with her followers and dig deeper into Maureen's background and the group's activities. They returned to the crime scene, re-examining everything for any connections to Maureen or her cult. They interviewed members and looked into the group's finances and records, uncovering a complex web of relationships and secrets. Meanwhile, the community was in a state of unease. News of the murder and the involvement of the strange cult had everyone on edge. People were talking about it in cafes, at the beach, and on the popular local radio station KGL. Detective Jenkins and Officer Davis were determined to uncover the truth. They knew that every detail mattered, and that Maureen Zaftrapines was a critical piece of the puzzle. As the investigation into Callie Carter's murder unfolded, the focus shifted to uncovering new evidence that could shed light on the events leading up to her death. Maureen Zaftrapines, a leader of Zen philosophy, initially emerged as a suspect due to her connection with James Carter and the contentious relationship between the Carters. As detectives delved deeper, though, they found that Maureen's alibi was solid, supported by corroborating evidence and witness testimonies. However, while she was not directly implicated in Callie's murder, it became clear that while she had been involved in an affair with James. Nevertheless, a significant revelation emerged during the investigation. Maureen had been blackmailing Callie. Threatening to expose their affair with James, Maureen pressured Callie to abandon her prosecution of Zen philosophy. This revelation added a new layer of complexity to the case, suggesting a motive rooted in personal vendetta and coercion. The blackmailing scheme exerted immense pressure on Callie, worsening tensions within her marriage and contributing to James's already unstable mental state. The realization that his extramarital affair was at risk of exposure, coupled with the prospect of financial ruin resulting from Callie's intention to leave him, possibly pushed James to a breaking point. The police, armed with this newfound understanding of the circumstances surrounding Callie's murder, intensified their scrutiny of James Carter. His erratic behavior, history of infidelity, and the mounting evidence linking him to the crime scene made him a prime suspect in their eyes. Meanwhile, the revelation of Maureen's blackmailing tactics sent shockwaves through the community, prompting widespread speculation and scrutiny of the Zen philosophy. Galveston's residents grappled with the unsettling realization that their beloved assistant district attorney had been ensnared in a web of deceit and manipulation orchestrated by those closest to her. The third suspect in the investigation was Michael Lawson, an 82-year-old local police officer with a long history in Galveston. Michael had a complicated relationship with Callie Carter. They had dated briefly before she married James, and rumors suggested that his patronage helped her rise quickly to the position of assistant district attorney. Michael had never fully moved on from their relationship and was known to harbor lingering feelings for Callie. On June 14, 2004, detectives decided to bring Michael in for questioning. His advanced age and distinguished career in law enforcement added a layer of complexity to the investigation. Michael arrived at the station in his uniform, carrying himself with the dignity of a seasoned officer, but there was a noticeable tension in his demeanor. Detectives Sarah Jenkins and Mark Davis led the interrogation, keen to understand Michael's potential involvement in the case. They began by asking about his relationship with Callie and his whereabouts on the night of her murder. Michael stated that he had been at home, alone, reading a book about World War II, his favorite historical period. The detectives found his alibi weak and decided to dig deeper. They asked about his feelings for Callie and if he had any contact with her recently. Michael admitted that he still cared for Callie, but denied any recent interactions beyond professional encounters. He appeared calm but evasive when pressed for details, raising suspicions about his true involvement. In addition to questioning Michael, the detectives examined his personal and professional records. They discovered that Michael had a history of becoming overly involved in cases where he had personal connections. This tendency made his proximity to the investigation and his personal history with Callie more troubling. The police also reviewed surveillance footage from the area around Callie's home on the night of the murder. While they did not find clear evidence placing Michael at the scene, his long-standing infatuation with Callie and his erratic behavior in similar past situations kept him on their radar. Throughout the investigation, Michael's colleagues and the community were divided in their opinions. Some viewed him as a dedicated officer who would never harm Callie, while others believed his unresolved feelings could have driven him to a desperate act. As the detectives continued to scrutinize Michael, they knew that they needed solid evidence to either confirm or rule out his involvement. His age and status made the case delicate, but the team remained committed to uncovering the truth behind Callie Carter's tragic death. As the investigation into Callie Carter's murder progressed, the police began to piece together crucial evidence pointing towards the true perpetrator. On June 15, 2004, a breakthrough came when they found incriminating evidence against James Carter, Callie's husband. James, a 36-year-old jobless man, had a troubled past marked by infidelity and erratic behavior. Callie had recently discovered his affair with Maureen Afterpines, which further strained their already tumultuous marriage. Detectives uncovered that Callie had planned to leave James and expose his affair, threatening to cut off his financial support. Faced with the potential ruin of his leisurely lifestyle, James's desperation drove him to a breaking point. Further forensic analysis revealed that James's fingerprints were on the knife used to stab Callie multiple times. Additionally, fibers from his clothing matched those found at the chaotic crime scene. The branding of the letter Z on Callie's body, initially thought to be linked to Maureen's cult, was identified as a desperate attempt by James to divert suspicion towards Xenon philosophy. On the morning of June 16, 2004, under a clear blue Texas sky, the police moved to arrest James at his home, which was also the site of the murder. Detective Sarah Jenkins and Officer Mark Davis approached the house with a sense of urgency and caution. James opened the door, visibly agitated and disheveled. As she and Davis placed him in handcuffs, James's face turned pale, and he protested loudly, but the overwhelming evidence left him with little room for denial. The news of James' arrests sent shockwaves through Galveston. Callie's family, who had been anxiously following the investigation, expressed a mix of relief and sorrow. Callie's mother, Margaret, tearfully thanked the police for their diligent work but lamented the tragic loss of her beloved daughter. The community, already shaken by the murder, grappled with the revelation that the crime was committed by someone so close to Callie. Friends and colleagues of Callie were stunned, finding it hard to reconcile the image of James as the loving husband with the brutal facts of the case. James' arrest marked a critical turning point in the investigation, bringing some closure to a grieving family and community. The focus now shifted to ensuring justice for Callie through the upcoming trial. James Carter's trial for the murder of Callie Carter began on September 1, 2005, in the Galveston County Courthouse. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Linda Ramirez, 45, known for her no-nonsense attitude and sharp legal acumen, presented a compelling case against James. They detailed how his desperate attempt to silence Callie was driven by the fear of exposure and financial ruin. The prosecution's argument relied heavily on the forensic evidence. James' fingerprints on the murder weapon, the matching fibers, and the digital trail of messages and emails between James and Maureen Afterpines. Ramirez painted a vivid picture of a man cornered by his own lies and infidelity, driven to commit an unthinkable act. In contrast, the defense, headed by attorney Ulcer Mitchum, 50, known for his smooth-talking style and high-profile case history, tried to cast doubt on the evidence. Mitchell argued that the investigation was biased from the start, influenced by the community's shock and grief. He suggested that the evidence was circumstantial and that the branding of the letter Z pointed more convincingly towards Zen and philosophy. The trial lasted for 3 intense weeks, with testimonies from forensic experts, character witnesses, and members of Xenon philosophy. The courtroom was filled with residents, journalists, and TV crews from stations like local ABC affiliate KTRK, all eager to witness the unfolding drama. On September 21, 2005, the jury delivered their verdict, guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom erupted in a mix of relief and tears. James Carter showed little emotion as the verdict was read, his face a mask of resignation. The sentencing hearing followed swiftly. The judge handed down a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole, citing the brutality of the crime and the betrayal of trust as key factors in her decision. The verdict and sentencing resonated deeply within the Galveston community. Some felt the punishment was just, reflecting the heinous nature of the crime. Others debated the fairness, given James' apparent lack of remorse and the complexities of the case. The trial's conclusion brought some closure, but also highlighted the deep scars left by the tragedy. Friends and colleagues of Callie continued to mourn her loss while trying to move forward, forever changed by the events that had transpired. In the months following the trial, the community of Galveston slowly began to heal from the tragedy of Callie Carter's murder. Life for many, however, was irrevocably changed. James Carter, now serving a life sentence without parole, faced the grim reality of his actions. In prison, he was known to be a solitary figure, rarely interacting with other inmates. Reports indicated that he spent most of his time in his cell, reflecting on the life he had destroyed. Maureen Zafterpines, the leader of Xenon philosophy, faced intense scrutiny following the trial. Though she was not directly involved in the murder, the revelations about her affair with James and the subsequent blackmailing of Callie tarnished her reputation. Membership dwindled as former followers questioned her teachings and integrity. Maureen stepped down from her leadership position and retreated from public life, leaving the future of the Xenon philosophy uncertain. Michael Lawson, the elderly police officer who had been a suspect, struggled to rebuild his reputation. Despite being cleared of any involvement in the murder, the investigation had taken a toll on his career and personal life. Michael retired from the police force and moved to El Paso, Texas, seeking peace and distance from the painful memories. The case of Callie Carter remained a somber chapter in Galveston's history, but it also served as a reminder of the importance of justice and the impact one person's life can have on a community. Through collective effort and remembrance, Galveston aimed to move forward while honoring Callie's legacy. Suzette Anarchy was a 44-year-old manager at Ruby Tuesdays, a popular restaurant chain known for its American fare and salad bar. She lived in a large suburban McMansion in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, a city known for its friendly neighborhoods and good schools. Suzette was an ambitious and outgoing woman. Her friends and family described her as someone who lived life to the fullest. She loved adventure sports like hiking and rock climbing, and she often spent her weekends exploring nature trails and cliffs. Suzette's educational journey began at Broken Arrow High School, where she was known for her excellent grades and participation in various clubs. She later attended the University of Oklahoma, where she majored in business management. Her education helped her rise quickly in her career, and she was deeply committed to her job at Ruby Tuesdays, where she was a respected manager. Suzette had a close-knit family. She was married to Danny Anarchy, and she had a teenage daughter named Luna Anarchy from her ex-husband Ross. Her relationship with Danny was complex, with periods of intense affection and moments of jealousy. Luna, an 18-year-old college student at Oklahoma State University, looked up to her mother and shared her adventurous spirit. Suzette's friends described her as fiercely loyal and always ready to help those in need. She was the kind of person who made everyone feel special. She had a magnetic personality that drew people to her. Her colleagues admired her work ethic and her ability to manage the restaurant efficiently while maintaining a friendly atmosphere. In the days leading up to her death, Suzette was particularly excited about a new managerial project at work. She had been working on improving the restaurant's customer service and menu options. She also planned a weekend hiking trip with her friends to celebrate the successful completion of the project. Suzette's dreams included further advancing her career and spending more time with her family and friends. She was looking forward to the upcoming fall season, with plans to visit local pumpkin patches and attend the Tulsa State Fair. On the evening of September 13, 2002, Suzette spent time with her family, discussing their plans for the weekend. She was in high spirits, full of hope and excitement for the future. Sadly, her dreams were cut short the following morning when her life was tragically taken. On the morning of September 14, 2002, the sky was overcast, and a light drizzle fell over Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. At around 7:30 a.m., Luna Anarchy, an 18-year-old college student, woke up and went to her mother's large walk-in closet in her family's large suburban home. Luna had plans to meet friends later that day, but first, she wanted to check on her mother, Suzette. As Luna entered the closet, she was met with a horrific sight. Her mother, Suzette Anarchy, lay lifeless on the floor in a pool of blood. Several belts, possibly the murder weapon, were scattered around her body. Luna's initial shock turned to sheer panic. She screamed and fell to her knees beside her mother. Struggling to maintain her composure, Luna reached for the phone and dialed 911, her voice shaking as she reported the brutal scene. The 911 call was received at 7:35 a.m. Luna, barely able to speak through her tears, described what she saw. The dispatcher stayed on the line with her, offering calm reassurances until the police arrived. Luna's frantic call sent a wave of urgency through the Broken Arrow Police Department. When the first responders arrived, they found Luna in a state of deep shock, sitting on the front steps of the house, her clothes stained with blood from holding her mother. The officers quickly secured the scene, ensuring no one could enter or leave the house while they began their investigation. The discovery of Suzette's body sent shockwaves through the Broken Arrow community. News quickly spread, and by midday, local media, including the Tulsa World newspaper and TV stations like KOTV Channel 6, were reporting on the tragic incident. Neighbors and friends gathered outside the Anna Key home, offering their support and expressing their disbelief. Suzette Anna Key's murder marked the beginning of a complex investigation. The police were determined to uncover the truth behind her brutal death and bring her killer to justice. As they worked tirelessly, the impact of Suzette's death resonated through the community, leaving everyone grappling with the loss of a beloved friend, colleague, and mother. When the Broken Arrow Police Department received Luna Anna Key's frantic 911 call on September 14, 2002, they knew they had to act fast. The sky was overcast, and a light drizzle continued as officers rushed to the scene. Detective Mark Corley, a seasoned investigator with 15 years on the force, led the team. Known for his sharp eye and calm demeanor, Corley arrived with his partner, Detective Susan Alera, who had a reputation for her meticulous attention to detail. When Corley and Alera entered the Anna Key home, they were met with a gruesome scene. Suzette Anna Key's body lay in the middle of her large walk-in closet, surrounded by belts stained with blood. The room showed clear signs of a struggle. Blood splatters covered the walls and furniture, indicating the violent nature of the attack. The detectives noted the presence of nunchucks, hinting at a possible history of abuse. The police quickly secured the crime scene, ensuring that no evidence would be disturbed. Horrifying began by documenting everything meticulously. He photographed the body, the belts, and the nunchucks, making sure to capture every detail. Alera, meanwhile, collected physical evidence, carefully bagging the belts for forensic analysis. They found no signs of forced entry, suggesting that Suzette likely knew her attacker. The medical examiner arrived shortly after to examine Suzette's body. The deep lacerations caused by the belts confirmed that Suzette had died from blunt force trauma. The brutal nature of the attack indicated intense rage, pointing to a personal motive. While Corley and Alera worked inside, uniformed officers canvassed the neighborhood. They interviewed neighbors and potential witnesses, hoping to gather information that could lead to a suspect. One neighbor mentioned hearing loud arguments from the Anna Key home the night before, adding a crucial detail to the timeline.
Detective Corley and his team continued their investigation late into the evening. They used luminol to detect any hidden bloodstains and dusted for fingerprints. The evidence pointed to a personal and deeply emotional motive behind Suzette's murder. As they processed the crime scene, the detectives were determined to uncover the truth and bring justice to Suzette and her grieving family.
The thorough work of the Broken Arrow Police Department laid the foundation for solving this tragic case. Every piece of evidence, every witness statement, brought them one step closer to identifying Suzette's killer. The first suspect in Suzette Anna Key's murder was her husband, Danny Anna Key. At 48 years old, Danny was known for his intelligence and meticulous nature. He worked as an accountant, a job that suited his detail-oriented personality. However, those who knew Danny also described him as emotionally distant and sometimes jealous, especially regarding his relationship with Suzette. Detective Mark Corley and Detective Susan Alera brought Danny in for questioning on the afternoon of September 14, 2002. The police station was abuzz with activity as the news of Suzette's murder spread. Danny appeared calm but nervous, a stark contrast to the horror that had unfolded in his home. Corley started the interrogation by asking Danny to recount his activities the night before. Danny claimed he had been working late on a project for a client and then went to bed early. However, his alibi quickly began to fall apart. When detectives checked with his workplace, they found no record of him being there late. Moreover, Danny's colleagues mentioned that he had left the office at his usual time. During the questioning, Danny remained mostly composed but showed signs of discomfort when asked about his relationship with Suzette. He admitted that they had arguments, mainly about his jealousy and her long hours at work. Danny also acknowledged that he was aware of Suzette's close friendship with Ross Cambray, her ex-husband who often helped around the house. However, he denied any involvement in her murder. The detectives pressed further, asking about the belts and nunchucks found at the crime scene. Danny hesitated but eventually admitted that the belts were his. He said he used them for his martial arts hobby, but insisted he had never used them to hurt Suzette. His answers were evasive, and his calm demeanor began to crack, revealing glimpses of anger and frustration. Detectives Coralie and Alara noticed these changes in his behavior. They believed that Danny's meticulous and controlling nature could have driven him to commit the crime, especially if he felt threatened by Suzette's independence or her relationship with Ross. As the interrogation continued, Danny's responses grew more erratic. He alternated between calm denials and angry outbursts, raising the detective's suspicions further. The interview ended with Danny still professing his innocence, but the inconsistencies in his story and his emotional volatility painted a different picture. The investigation into Danny Anarchy was just beginning. Detectives Coralie and Alara knew they needed more evidence to connect him to Suzette's murder. But with each question, Danny became a more likely suspect in the eyes of the police. The next suspect in Suzette Anarchy's murder was Ross Cambray, her 37-year-old ex-husband. Ross was disciplined, energetic, and known for his supportive nature. He worked as a fitness trainer at a local gym, a job that suited his active lifestyle. He had known Suzette since college, and their friendship remained strong over the years despite their divorce 8 years before. Ross was frequently seen at the Anarchy home, helping with the garden and house repairs. On the morning of September 15, 2002, detectives Mark Coralie and Susan Alara brought Ross in for questioning. The police station was filled with reporters, all eager for updates on the case. Ross appeared cooperative but visibly nervous as he sat down with the detectives. Detective Coralie began the interrogation by asking Ross about his relationship with Suzette and Danny. Ross admitted that he was still very close to Suzette and considered her one of his best friends. He also acknowledged his friendship with Danny, but noted that their relationship had become strained over time. As the questioning continued, Ross dropped a bombshell. He revealed that he had been secretly having sex with both Danny and Suzette, unbeknownst to each other. This revelation shocked the detectives, adding a new layer of complexity to the case. Ross explained that the relationships had been going on for several months, and he felt deeply conflicted about them. Detective Alara asked Ross if he had any knowledge of the belts and nunchucks found at the crime scene. Ross shook his head and insisted he had never seen Danny use them for anything other than martial arts practice. He also stated that he had no idea about any abuse in the Anarchy household. Ross's demeanor was a mix of nervousness and cooperation. He answered the detective's questions honestly but seemed deeply troubled by the situation. He explained that on the night of Suzette's murder, he had been at home, alone, watching Jimmy Neutron and Rugrats. Unfortunately, he had no one to corroborate his alibi. The detectives found Ross's confession about the secret relationships to be both surprising and suspicious. It gave Ross a potential motive. If Suzette or Danny had discovered the affairs, it could have led to a violent confrontation. However, Ross's genuine sadness and shock over Suzette's death made it hard to believe he could commit such a brutal crime. As the interrogation ended, Ross was released but remained a person of interest. Detectives Coralie and Alara knew they needed to dig deeper into Ross's background and alibi to determine if he had any involvement in Suzette's murder. The investigation was becoming more complex, with each suspect revealing new and startling information. On September 17, 2002, 3 days after Suzette Anarchy's murder, the investigation took a crucial turn. The day was clear and sunny, providing a stark contrast to the grim task at hand. Detective Mark Coralie received a call from a neighbor who had found something unusual in her backyard while gardening. She had unearthed a blood-stained shirt buried in the dirt. Detectives Coralie and Susan Alara rushed to the scene to collect the evidence. The neighbor handed over the shirt, immense size, and it appeared to have been hastily buried. They carefully placed it in an evidence bag, knowing it could be a key piece in solving the case. Back at the police station, the shirt was sent to the forensic lab for analysis. Meanwhile, Coralie and Alara reviewed the case files and the alibis of their suspects. The new evidence could potentially break the case wide open. The forensic team worked quickly to analyze the shirt. By late afternoon, they had found DNA that matched Danny Anarchy. This finding was significant and placed Danny at the crime scene, providing physical evidence linking him to the murder. With this new evidence in hand, the detectives dug deeper into Danny's background. They discovered a disturbing pattern of abuse. Suzette had been brutally abused by Danny. He frequently beat her with belts, one in each hand, in what he called cowboy style. He also used a pair of nunchucks for what he referred to as a ninja beating. These findings painted a horrifying picture of Suzette's life and suggested a motive driven by Danny's violent tendencies and control issues. The third suspect in the investigation was Luna Anna Key, Suzette's 18-year-old daughter. Luna was a charismatic and ambitious college student at Oklahoma State University, known for her social skills and persuasive nature. She had a magnetic personality and was popular among her peers. However, Luna had been hiding a significant secret. She was pregnant with her stepfather Danny's child. On September 18, 2002, detectives Mark Corley and Susan Illara brought Luna in for questioning at the Broken Arrow Police Department. Luna appeared calm but apprehensive as she sat down with the detectives. Detective Corley began by asking Luna about her relationship with her mother and stepfather. Luna spoke fondly of her mother, describing her as a loving and adventurous person. When asked about Danny, Luna hesitated before revealing the shocking details of their affair. She admitted that the relationship had been ongoing for several years and that she was pregnant with this child. The detectives were stunned by Luna's confession. They questioned her about her whereabouts on the night of the murder. Luna claimed she had been out with friends, celebrating a successful exam. However, her friends' statements were inconsistent, and some couldn't confirm seeing her that night. Detective Illara asked Luna if she had any knowledge of the belts and nunchucks found at the crime scene. Luna's eyes widened, and she appeared genuinely shocked. She denied any involvement in her mother's murder and insisted that she loved Suzette deeply. Despite her calm demeanor, the detectives noticed signs of stress and fear. Luna's potential motive was complex. If Suzette had discovered the affair and the pregnancy, it could have led to a confrontation. However, Luna's genuine grief over her mother's death made it difficult to believe she was involved. The detectives decided to dig deeper into Luna's background and relationships. As the interrogation continued, Luna maintained her innocence but admitted that her relationship with Danny was a mistake. She expressed remorse for the pain it had caused and seemed genuinely devastated by her mother's death. Despite Luna's emotional responses, the detectives knew they had to consider all possibilities. They reviewed her alibi and questioned her friends again, looking for any inconsistencies. Luna's complex relationship with Danny and her secret pregnancy added layers to the investigation, making it one of the most challenging aspects of the case. Luna's interview ended with more questions than answers. The detectives knew they needed concrete evidence to determine her involvement, if any, in Suzette's murder. The investigation was far from over, and every new piece of information brought them closer to the truth. With the discovery of the blood-stained shirt and the pattern of abuse, the Broken Arrow Police Department felt confident they had identified Suzette Anna Key's murderer. On September 18, 2002, detectives Mark Corley and Susan Illara pieced together the evidence pointing to Danny Anna Key as the killer. The weather was clear, mirroring the clarity with which the case had come into focus. Danny Anna Key, a 48-year-old accountant, had shown signs of jealousy and violent tendencies. Investigators learned that Danny had been abusing Suzette for years. He would beat her with belts, one in each hand, a method he called cowboy style. He also used nunchucks, referring to this brutal practice as ninja beating. This abuse, combined with his desire to be with his stepdaughter Luna, who was also pregnant with his child, motivated him to commit the murder. Danny believed that killing Suzette would allow him to start a new life with Luna without the complications of a divorce. Additionally, he stood to gain financially from Suzette's life insurance policy. On the night of September 14, 2002, under the guise of another abusive episode, Danny whipped Suzette to death cowboy style with his belts in their large suburban home. Detectives Corley and Illara gathered all the evidence, including witness testimonies and forensic analysis, and presented their case to the district attorney. The decision was made to arrest Danny for Suzette's murder. On the morning of September 18, the police planned the arrest. Under a clear sky, they approached Danny's office, knowing that apprehending him in public would prevent any potential escape or harm to others. Danny was taken into custody without incident, He appeared shocked and tried to maintain his innocence, but the overwhelming evidence against him made his guilt apparent. Suzette's family, particularly her daughter Luna, had mixed reactions. Luna was torn between the loss of her mother and the arrest of her stepfather and secret lover. Friends and neighbors expressed relief that the alleged perpetrator was in custody, hoping for justice for Suzette. The arrest marked a significant step towards closure for Suzette's family and friends. Detective Coralie and Detective Valera, who had worked tirelessly on the case, felt a sense of accomplishment but knew the journey was far from over. The trial would be the next hurdle in bringing full justice to Suzette Anna Key's tragic end. The trial of Danny Anna Key began in late September 2002, capturing the attention of the Broken Arrow community and the media. The prosecution was led by District Attorney James D. Capria, a 45-year-old known for his sharp mind and dedication to justice. He presented the case with determination, focusing on the evidence that painted Danny as a violent and controlling husband who murdered his wife, Suzette, to be with his stepdaughter Luna and benefit from a life insurance policy. Capria outlined the abuse Suzette had endured, including the horrific cowboy style and ninja beating methods Danny used. He detailed the events of the night of September 14, emphasizing the bloodstained shirt and the DNA evidence linking Danny to the crime scene. Capria called witnesses, including neighbors and forensic experts, who testified about the abuse and the evidence. The defense attorney, Robert Angel Coralie, a 50-year-old with a calm demeanor and years of experience in criminal defense, argued that the evidence was circumstantial and that Danny was a loving husband who was being unfairly targeted. Coralie suggested that the real killer could have been someone else, possibly Ross Cambry or even Luma. He questioned the reliability of the witness testimonies and the forensic evidence, trying to cast doubt in the minds of the jurors. Throughout the trial, Suzette's family watched with heavy hearts. Luna, torn between the loss of her mother and the arrest of her stepfather and lover, appeared visibly distressed. Friends and neighbors who had known Suzette as a vibrant and loyal person were there to support the family, hoping for justice. After several days of testimonies and arguments, the jury deliberated. On October 3, 2002, they returned with a verdict. Danny Anna Key was found guilty of first-degree murder. The courtroom was silent as the judge pronounced the sentence, life in prison without the possibility of parole. The severity of the punishment reflected the brutality of the crime and the betrayal of trust. Danny showed little emotion as the sentence was read, maintaining his innocence. Suzette's family, while relieved that justice had been served, was also grappling with the emotional toll of the trial and the loss of Suzette. Luna was particularly affected, struggling with her complicated feelings about Danny and the devastating impact on her life. The trial's conclusion brought a sense of closure to the community, but the scars of Suzette's tragic death would remain. Friends and family members tried to move forward, remembering Suzette for the loving and adventurous person she was. After the trial of Danny Anna Key, the residents of Broken Arrow tried to return to their normal lives, but the memory of Suzette Anna Key's tragic death lingered. The verdict had brought a sense of justice, but the community was still healing from the shock. Danny was sent to a maximum security prison to serve his life sentence without the possibility of parole. He continued to claim his innocence, but his appeals were repeatedly denied. In prison, Danny was a model inmate, but he remained isolated and alone, reflecting on the choices that led him to this point. Luna Anna Key faced a difficult path ahead. She decided to leave Oklahoma State University for a semester to take care of her mental health. The revelation of her affair with Danny and her pregnancy had left her feeling lost and overwhelmed. Luna sought therapy to help her process the trauma and rebuild her life. She moved in with her maternal grandparents, who offered her support and a safe place to grieve and heal as she raised her daughter, Yat, as a single mother. Ross Cambry, who had been caught in the web of the investigation due to his secret relationships with both Suzette and Danny, returned to his job as a fitness trainer. The experience had changed him profoundly, and he became more private and introspective. Ross focused on his work and avoided the spotlight, hoping to leave the past behind. Suzette's parents, devastated by the loss of their daughter, focused on supporting Luna and preserving Suzette's legacy. They created a scholarship fund in Suzette's name at the local high school, aiming to help young women pursue their dreams. The town of Broken Arrow, though scared by the tragic events, found ways to heal and remember. Suzette Anna Key's story was a reminder of the complexities of human relationships and the need for kindness and understanding. Life slowly moved forward, but Suzette's vibrant spirit continued to inspire those who knew her.